Hello, and we are live with our Halloween 2018 discussion show. I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty interesting show discussing the film, whether or not it lived up to the hype, where it ranks in the pantheon of Halloween films, and where not only the new Halloween series, but where the horror genre in general can sort of go from here. I'm your moderator, Pizzal. With me tonight, I have got the Professor B Movie Mike. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, let's just do this.
So clearly, Mike loved the movie. Mike loved
I'm shocked.
Damn it, Mike.
Yeah, you guys loved it. I hate it. End of show. Have a good night. Thank you very much.
No.
But the best part
You
is
guys
fighting
can
about
drool
it.
all over it's wonderful, whatever you thought was wonderful about it. And I'll just save the audience time and just say, I'll just fuck off right now. All right, thanks. Have a good one.
No.
Later.
I'm getting to the point where, like, I guess I just don't know how to predict what you will like, because there are things I've seen, and I was excited to get
you
your
watch
take.
the original and then you watch this piece of shit, and it should be pretty easy to figure out.
Like I said, it's going to be an interesting show tonight. I got a feeling. Also with me tonight is Raiho Magnifico. What's up, Raiho?
Just freezing my ass off up here in Canada.
What's the temp like up there?
It's not too bad. I don't know why I'm so cold tonight. Like I've got tea. I've got a big sweater on. I don't know what it is. It's probably about 5 degrees Celsius out there. It's not that bad, but for some reason,
It's only mid-October.
Yeah, we're getting it bad early this year. I have a bad feeling about this winter.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
it's gotten pretty cold here in Kentucky. It seems like we had like a couple of days of fall. Now we're just going right into winter. So I mean, geez. But yeah. Also with me tonight is Easy E. Eric. What's up, man?
I have a different opinion than Mike, clearly. I did enjoy the movie. Happy to talk about it. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. But I'm doing good. Good. I'm glad to. I was very excited about this show. Very much. I was definitely on board to see the movie. I was one of the skeptical people. We actually did like a trailer review, not as part of this. I think it was like me, Cole, and Jay. I don't know, maybe some people like that a while back, because like I think I started out not really liking what the concept of the movie seemed to be, and then the more I saw, I felt like they were pulling me in, like it was becoming more interesting. And the more I was like hearing interviews with like the writer and the writers and the director, I don't know, they seemed to win me over in the marketing battle, and I was pleased with the movie. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Cool. Also with me tonight is Lorne. What's up, Lorne? How are you?
I'm good. I'm home. I actually have books to show for once. Yeah, I have very conflicted feelings about this movie, mostly negative. But we'll get into it. I think it's worth seeing, but I can't understand what's going on in the media with it, because it's not the film. It's not the film they're reviewing.
Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. I do like the background though. The background's very, very nice.
Thank you.
Also with us tonight, we've got a very special guest making his first appearance on the show, Michael Aubrey Myers. How's it going, Mike? It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We're all huge fans of your work, so it's awesome just to have you here.
Were you and Bucky friends?
What's your thoughts on Bucky, just in general? Okay. Just not a fan of Bucky, unfortunately. Hashtag never forget Bucky. Nope. But for real, making his first appearance on the show from the RMJ YouTube channel, Monty. What's up, Monty?
Hey, how you doing, fellas?
Doing very well. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing with us your thoughts on the new Halloween.
Yeah, there's a lot.
A lot to discuss, a lot to go over. So let me see what's going on in the chat. Let's get a temperature for people's thoughts on the new Halloween film based on the chat. Just based on the comment section of my review of the film, I really got the impression that people either loved it or hated it. There was very few comments of, hey, it's all right, or, oh, you know, it's okay.
I can definitely understand one side of that.
It was definitely love or hate. So let's see what's going on. Bad Intention says Halloween 2018 was fire emoji times 5. 9 out of 10 for him.
See, the 2018 was the amount of times I face palmed while watching it.
I'm just so happy I'm not going to be that guy tonight. I don't have to be the most negative. That's so great.
That's always Mike. You can't.
See what I mean? They make a shitty movie and it's my fucking fault. You see
Your
this?
fault.
Set me up.
Let's see. Max Punishment says, everyone ready to tear this movie apart? I'm guessing Max did not like the film. Azazel, the zombie, says, am I the only one who enjoyed H2 1981 more? Still thought it was killer.
No, you're not alone.
No, not at all.
Movie Man 95, sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. That sucks, man. So sorry to hear about that. Draven G said, I loved it. To me, it was a lot better than H2O. New Level 25 says, yep, Halloween 2 was a much better movie than the new film. You could tell that the new film was not directed by someone who has done horror before, which I think that's an interesting point that we can get into here shortly. Anthony Anderson's looking forward to the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Looking forward to Blackish next week.
Cool. Let's see. Jerpin, our old buddy Jerpin says, I'm 85% sure how I feel about the film, but I don't think I'll ever put it above H2 1981. No way. Jerpin also says, too bad Rambo's internet is not good. Rambo did a review of the film. If you've not seen it, I think it was like a 20-minute. Was it a 20-minute video or was it long?
It had some length to it for sure.
53 minutes.
It was 53 minutes. Holy crap! I think I made it through 20 minutes before I
played.
I didn't watch anybody's reviews. I wanted to go in cold. I didn't want to know anything.
Okay.
So.
Let's see. Here's an interesting little tidbit. New Level 25 says Jamie Lee just recently said she won't do another Halloween without David Gordon Green.
Huh.
That I don't think that'll be a problem, but okay.
We'll see how.
Unless all of a sudden he's like, in demand and they're trying to get him to do other stuff.
Oh.
Well, he may be in demand for some other horror projects. That's for sure.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Manny Gatillo says, still haven't watched the new Halloween movie. Well, warning, this discussion will be very spoilerific. So if you've not seen the movie, proceed with caution because there will be lots and lots of spoilers. So, oh man, Mandy, you're from Africa. Had no idea that you were from Africa. Very cool.
Oh, get out of here.
And then Manny goes on to say, I don't care if they talk about spoilers tonight. So, okay. We'll be as spoilerific as possible.
They killed him with fire.
Or did they?
Maybe. New Level 25 says score was the best.
No.
Pierce Nightshade says, I thought the new Halloween was okay. He's one of the rare middle of the road people with the new Halloween film. Let's see. DJ Donnelly says Halloween 4 is his favorite sequel, I should say. Your Canadian brother, Azazel Jewel, is on board with you, Raho.
Okay.
Rhonda Toys watching tonight. Hello, Rhonda. Hope you're doing well. Dave Shaw is on board. A couple of things we need to discuss before we get started. James Karen, the venerable character actor from Return of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead 2, Poltergeist. He was in Nixon. He was in Any Given Sunday. He was in Oodles and Oodles. I think he had over 200 credits to his name when he passed away. Very good actor. I never got the opportunity to meet him, but I only heard really good things from people who'd met him at conventions, that he was super nice, super friendly, super sweet. But he passed away just, if it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before.
Oh, man.
And yeah, so he will definitely be missed. And it's interesting that we're talking about the new Halloween film, because today actually marks the 40th anniversary of the release of the original Halloween. October 25th, 1978 was when the original Halloween was released. So 40 years ago today. How cool is that?
Man, right on.
Like you planned it.
Exactly.
And I had to celebrate it by watching this piece of shit.
Oh, hold on, Mike. Hold on. Let's see here. Joe Bob Tar Heel's watching tonight. Jamie's watching tonight. Jamie says, I saw the new Halloween and loved it. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in here. Should we just go right into Halloween 2018?
Let's go in.
Let's just go in. Let's just go for it.
Let's do it.
Sounds like there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, let's
There's a lot to discuss. Yeah.
I feel like there's better topics we could cover.
We could talk about Star Wars some more.
Daniel Harris.
Daniel Harris.
Yeah, Mike,
I'd rather do a
what did
show
you think
about
of The Last
resurrection.
Jedi, Mike? Let's hear about that.
Oh no. That's
Oh,
not-
you like that one too. I'm
No.
starting to question you, man.
Well,
First of all, I changed
I
my
realize that
opinion
they
on
legalized weed in your state, bro, but take a breath, would you?
I thought I had a
Damn.
nuanced opinion. We talked about that one of the more recent times.
That corpse has been studied enough.
that corpse has been autopsied.
On to a new
There's
one.
nothing left.
Yeah.
There's
Yay.
nothing left. Jay the Stingray is here. He must have taken over. He must have kicked
Oh.
Michael out of his home.
So
You don't
he
get Michael out
removed
of
the
his home.
haunted
He
mask,
just
so he'll
left.
be okay now.
Stingray, how are you, buddy? Oh, we can't hear him. We can't hear him. Having some audio issues with Stingray, apparently. All right. Well, Raiho, why don't you get us started? Let's talk about. I know you and Cole went and saw the film together. You did a video on your channel. Go ahead, give us some of your thoughts on the film, and kind of let us know kind of what Cole thought too. Cole, I don't believe was going to be here tonight. He said he was going to try and make it, but
Yeah, I don't think he's making it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of our opinion was fairly similar. Cole's like the Halloween guy. That's his series. That's like the one that he likes the most. So we both went in pretty lukewarm, and came out feeling like we liked it. You know what I mean? Like we're not kicking back. Like we got kind of the middle of the road, I think. We liked a lot of aspects of it. There were things that he didn't like more about the story that didn't bother me as much. But for the most part, we both came out saying, well, we liked it. More viewings will say how much. I only got to see it the one time, but I enjoyed it enough that I know I'd like to watch it again, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to.
I really wanted to watch it again too, particularly
Yeah.
before tonight's show. I just did not have the opportunity.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Tell us some of the things you liked about the film. Tell us some of the things that you thought were lacking in the film.
Well, one of the things I liked was the ending. I had a bad idea of how they were going to end it. And as it turns out, it appears that they changed the ending after a screening
Yeah.
quite a bit, which is surprising to me. When I heard that, I was like, they did a pretty good job of it, because like I didn't notice that they changed enough of the story that they wove it all in such a way that I wouldn't have ever guessed that there was a different ending. The original ending had like Michael and Laurie having a battle with knives or something like that.
Yeah.
But I kind of enjoyed how they ended it. I liked Laurie's character. I liked Jamie Lee's performance. I don't know like how much I love it. It's kind of a love-hate thing, because I really like Laurie as a character from the original film, and it's hard to reconcile this Laurie with that Laurie. But I think that was like Nicole and I were talking about it, and I think that's kind of the idea here, is that she's changed so much in this amount of time, and you have Michael, who's completely static. He hasn't changed at all. So you have this like juxtaposition between the two of them, where you have her whole life has gone downhill and changed in such a way that you could never imagined how it would go, versus Michael, who is exactly the same as he was when we left off in the last film. So I thought that was kind of an interesting play there, and Jamie Lee really did not phone this in one bit. I thought she did a great job in the role. Things I didn't like were definitely Dr. Sartain. I didn't really care for that character at all, and it felt weird to have him there. With Laurie being like the Loomis, and then you had Sartain in there, kind of like a Loomis. It was a little bit jarring, and it didn't quite fit to me. those are a couple things that come off the top of my head. I don't want to steal everything. So that's why I'm kind of middle of the road. Like I overall, I enjoyed the movie. I liked the score. I liked how it looked so good. Like I said to Cole when we walked out, it was almost like the way the film was made. I'm not saying that it was a great film, but it was like almost too good for a Halloween film. I thought the shots were nice. They did a great job of framing everything. The acting was great. It looked and felt too good for a Halloween movie in a way, as I was watching it. So I enjoyed all that, but there were some things about the story that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Well, I definitely want to get into Dr. Sartain here momentarily, but this is a question I'd like to pose to all of you guys. And I know that you and Cole kind of talked about it. Well, I think you may have actually muted some of that discussion about how this movie kind of rewrites the ending of the original.
Kind of.
What did you guys think about that? And I was kind of, the more I thought about, at first it didn't really bother me because I understood for this movie to exist, to be a true follow-up to the first one, you've got to rewrite it a little bit. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, so did Loomis shoot him and he fell out the window and he crawled away and then Loomis found him in a bush? Because there were actually, I heard some pages from the screenplay that leaked that were about Loomis.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, and I know I just spoke, but one thing that I found interesting was that they actually had intended to reshoot the ending of Halloween.
Yep.
And basically do kind of a Rogue One, put actors in that looked like the characters and kind of make it work. And they were going to reshoot the ending and then curve it the way they wanted it. And then I guess Carpenter was like, no, don't do it. They'll hate you for it. It'll never work. So like one of the scenes in the film is actually, if you look at it closely, it's a recreation of the ending scene in the film. They just boarded it up differently because they still had it on set. They actually got that far. They built it, but then he was like, no, don't do it. So they did intend to really like kind of, give you that level of.
I'm glad they didn't reshoot that. I'm glad they didn't get that. Would just be, and I think that would be a horrible way to start the movie off with like, here's this fake Dr. Loomis. Here's this, you know what I mean? I just think that'd be a horrible way to start the movie off.
And there's two things about that because they talked about. Again, this is a spoiler conversation, but again, this didn't happen, so it's not actually a spoiler. The ending they were talking about was what would happen is like it'd be the end of Halloween, that part where like he and Laurie are wrestling, she pulls his mask off, he pulls the mask back on, Loomis shoots him once, and remember he like staggers into the other room. At that point, they were gonna change it, and it was like Loomis goes to look for him, and Michael Myers like jumps out at him, and Loomis drops the gun, and the shape kills him, and Laurie's the one that shoots him off the balcony, which I can't be happier that they didn't do like that. I would have walked out of the theater if they had done that.
That would have made, like I said, that would have made the movie roadkill, right? It would have been
right. And it's like there's two things. It's a changing the end of the first movie, but also, and maybe this is just me, and I'll talk about this more when you come to me directly, but I just have a real love in my heart for the character of Dr. Loomis. I always talk about him, and that's one of the reasons I hated the zombie movies. Like, they just totally stuck his character in the toilet. So, like, to me, even though I was willing to go along with the idea that this is a direct sequel to the first one and the other movies didn't happen, the fact that Donald Pleasance played that character for so long, Dr. Loomis was like that singular thread through all the sequels, I really like that this movie... that they didn't do that, and B, I thought this movie was pretty reverential to his character. I was happy about that. But I couldn't be happier that they didn't do that abortion of an idea. And I'm a little troubled that Carpenter had to be the one, like, don't do that. Like, I would hope they'd be smarter than that. Like, again, and we've talked about, like, I liked the movie, so, and I felt like their instincts and a lot of the way they constructed it was good. I think that. But so it bothers me that they had this very, very wrong idea. Like, I don't know. It makes me wonder if Carpenter was maybe guiding them in some other areas too.
Well, luckily he spoke up and said, no, guys, come on. thank God. I mean, literally, if that had been the opening of the film, I don't think it could have rebounded. If you did stay, I don't think it could have rebounded. That would have been just such a bad taste in your mouth right off the bat.
Right.
But
Especially. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. Now I'll save this for when
Okay,
you come
okay.
to me. Yeah.
But let me ask Stingray, let me ask Lauren and Monty. How did you feel about the movie sort of rewriting the end of the original? Was it like it's for me? I didn't. The more I've thought about it, the more I've wondered, well, what supposedly happened and how did these things unfold and blah blah blah. But I think
It just
I don't know. Go ahead.
I think for me, like the whole concept of the original movie is that Michael Myers is this boogeyman. He's this force of nature. He's unexplained. He's under the couch. He's in the backseat. He's everywhere. So just to me, it took away a little bit of his for me personally, it took away a little bit of his threat in this movie, knowing that, okay, they just captured him at the end. Because after he got shot off the end of the balcony in the 78 version, he was gone. So it's like, this dude is a ghost. You're hearing the breathing. He's everywhere. But wait, okay, now we find out in this one, they caught him. So it's kind of like, okay, so if this guy's the boogeyman, they just slapped the cuffs on him and took him away. I thought he was a force of nature. So for me, it kind of brought Michael down a little bit in the picture. I still rolled with it because we got Halloween Resurrection. So I just kind of said whatever. But for me, it took away from the movie a little bit for me as a viewer.
Would it have improved the movie if they just said, if they went with, he disappeared, he's been off the grid for 40 years, we don't know where he is, what's happened to him, he's not been institutionalized, and then all of a sudden, he just shows up? Or, these investigative journalists, they dig around, and I don't know, maybe they find him or something, and we can still have the teeth over the stall sequence, but could it have benefited from just Michael? He disappeared, and he's back now 40 years later for some reason.
I think that would have been more powerful. And it's funny, I'm overwhelmingly positive about the movie, but this is probably my biggest negative gripe about it, which is that I think it robs the first film of its power to some extent. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely agree with that opinion. And it also too, like, and this is actually, so in the review I wrote for the movie, this was an idea and I advanced Piz, like, why wouldn't that would have been a way better idea that doesn't really mess with the end of Halloween. And I think, you guys tell me, arguably, I think that's scarier. Because really, that's the whole point of the original Halloween. Remember, Carpenter wasn't going to make a sequel. It's just the idea that he's shot and then he's just gone because he's evil and he's out there. He escapes. So I almost think it's a more terrifying notion. And I think it would even have done a lot more for the Laurie character that he was never caught and he was never found. So it's like, and it, she still would be perceived as this paranoid character who's living in the woods, but at least, it would have made it sort of a scarier circumstance that, like, yeah, she's over prepared, but then again, they did never find him. Like, he's just out there. So it's odd to me that they kind of just stuck him back in the asylum and they did it off screen. I was not, I kind of actually liked some of what that did for the Will Patton character. Like, I sort of liked how there were some little character moments that were embedded with that, but I didn't just sort of like hearing secondhand, like, oh, Dr. Loomis like chased him down outside and was going to kill him, and this officer stopped him. I don't know. There was just something about that did rub me the wrong way. And I had sort of the same feeling about it where initially I rolled with it, but the more I think about it, it does kind of grate on me.
Jay the Stingray, what's your thoughts on that?
You're on mute.
My thoughts on where they started.
Yeah. Sort of rewriting the end of the original, and could they have done it without the whole institutional, him being caught and institutionalized for 40 years?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. It does kind of take away some of the mystique of the character, the shape. It really grounds him in reality more than I would like. But, I really think it's unnecessary, skipping all the sequels and a lot of that. But, you guys made me watch Part 6 last week, and I was tickled to death with this movie. So, So I don't know. I was actually thinking we could have a fun discussion tonight, but apparently it's just going to be Dookie all over this movie. So
this is my one gripe, Jay. I liked it. We'll talk about good stuff. This is my one thing.
Dump on it after this. This is just the thing that bothers me the most about it is that they just glossed over it. Like, I feel like they had it in their head that they were going to rewrite the ending and they were going to do this Rogue One kind of thing, and then somebody poo-pooed on it, the big man himself, and they changed it, but they just glossed over it. Like, we don't get to know exactly what happened. And like, really, when you think about it, I don't know if you guys agree with this at all. Could they have just left Halloween 2 in the like?
I agree.
Couldn't they have just, like, really, when you think about it, couldn't they have just left it be? He got so fucked up at the end of Halloween 2. That's how they caught him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know what I mean? And then,
even better,
Danny McBride. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
To say at the end of Halloween 2, Loomis dies in the fire and Michael disappears again like he did, and they never find his body and assume that he's dead.
Yeah.
That would give Laurie a reason to be overtly psychotically paranoid.
And like, did it matter that she wasn't his sister? They had one little stupid joke where they're walking down the street and the guy's like, "Oh,
I
it's all
really
right."
see what the big deal was about erasing that. I don't see how they improved the story by removing that.
Danny McBride, there was just an interview where he addressed this specifically, where apparently, according to him, and I think this is bullshit, I don't buy this as a reason, by having the sister connection, they think that if Michael's goal is he's got to kill Laurie or he's got to kill Jamie or whatever, that, like, the randomness of his crimes can't really be there. So, like, that whole sequence, which I really dug, by the way, that, like, you know, the sequence where he kind of just walking, like, door to door and just, like, murdering people in every house, like, they were saying, it was like, well, we can't do that scene if that's his sister. And I'm like, I don't think you've actually watched the other sequels, because, you know, while yes, Michael's ultimate goal is, like, to kill Laurie, he still fucks around for most of the night, killing her friends and seeming to have a really good time doing it. And he does that in the other movies too. So I didn't buy that as an excuse, but just for the purposes of this discussion, this is how they justified it. That's why they thought it needed to go away.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, chime in. Let us know, what's your thoughts on rewriting the ending? Could it have benefited from, not having the whole Michael institutionalized thing? For me personally, I like the fact that they removed the brother sister angle. But go ahead. We'll get into the brother sister angle here a little bit more in depth shortly. But go ahead, Lauren.
So I'll get to your answer. I promise it does lead there, but it's not going to go directly there. My biggest problem with the film, period, is that it's a Michael Myers movie. It is not a Shape movie. The entire point of the original film is that everyone thinks Loomis is insane for thinking that Michael is more than just a madman on the loose. Yeah. The final line of the film tells you what the film is about, is that evil is real incarnate. When he looks over the banister and Michael really has survived his gunshot wounds, we're supposed to believe that this is the incarnation of Halloween evil. It really is what the movie is. This undoes that on about 3 times in the movie, because thematically, Michael Myers is Michael Myers. He's an escaped lunatic. He is what all the characters besides Loomis believed him to be in the original. It also, so do you want to rewrite the ending of the first film? Well, they did in every single scene. It's not a matter of one choice. The whole movie is structured incorrectly if you value the original film's ending. The entire film. And as far as could they have left the second film? Well, why not, since they basically just remade it without a hospital. Beat for beat. I read reviews of this film, and people are talking about it being brave and original, and it's not at all.
Nope, not at all.
It is remarkable that this thing has got the opinion out. And the other thing is, tonally, this thing's a mess. A mess. For every 10 minutes is a different movie. And I just don't understand how it wasn't scary, right? I mean, was anyone legitimately scared by this thing? Even in the theater I was with, which included children walking in, and the woman who bought tickets in front of me who asked the ticket taker to give her 2 for the Jason movie. Oh my God. Which was the best part of the evening. Oh. It's just, the movie really doesn't get the subtext of the original film at all. And I think that that's a big problem to me. So should they have kept the original ending? Yeah. But they should have based the entire film on the original ending. And they didn't. I think there's some fundamental flaws to this movie. I think long term, this is not going to have this kind of hype around it, or it's going to end up to be an Alien situation for me, whereas I don't see what everyone else sees. But it's a deeply flawed movie. I will say, I think it has the best title sequence since the original. And I was hoping that was the intent of the filmmakers, to show a rotten pumpkin and say, look, we're restoring it. We're saving your series. We know it's fallen from grace. So I went in thinking, wow, if they're this clever, maybe they're going to pull this thing off. And then literally the next scene happened. But I don't want to monopolize time here, because I very easily could go off on a huge rant on this movie. I'd rather just hear what everyone says and give my input where necessary. But I think that subtext of this movie.
Please continue. That way I won't feel so lonely.
Well, no, I think there's things I liked about the movie. But then there's things I think people aren't talking about that are troubling. I don't like the fact that every male character in the film is either incredibly naive, incompetent, or evil. That's it.
Well, that's just modern cinema.
I don't think that's true. I think Will Patton's character was pretty on the ball. I mean, again, he got hoodwinked in that last scene, but
no. So he's naive. Think of the scene where they pull up to Laurie's house. He thinks he's going to win her over by the truth and journalism and integrity, and the woman's the one that's smart enough to say $3,000. The movie. Think about the
no.
boyfriend.
Will Patton was the cop, not the journalist.
Oh, no. Incompetent. He's incompetent. I'm sorry. I thought you meant the reporter. Yeah. Incompetent. He is walking around a house as a trained police officer with a gun. He doesn't get a beat on Michael, but Laurie can walk up and shoot him almost immediately.
I don't know. I think that might be okay. I'll give you that. I don't know. I think that might be nitpicking, frankly, just in the staging of that scene. We're getting into some granularity here. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't think your level of optimism is mentally healthy.
I did like the Will Patton character, but I like Will Patton in just about anything anyway. And I think if anything,
also we're led to believe that the reason that Michael escaped and wasn't killed on the original '78 night is because of him. So he's definitely incompetent. He might be likable. I'm not saying that, but incompetent. Sure.
I don't know if I would say incompetent. I would say he's kind of. I think he's the last good cop on the force kind of feeling. He's the last. Yeah. I wouldn't call that incompetence. I would maybe call that
naive. That was the other choice.
I don't know if I'd call it naive. I don't know. Maybe too trusting. I don't know, or maybe too
poorly written.
How about
that's really what it is.
I think he's optimistic. Maybe.
Yeah, a little bit too much faith.
Exactly, a little bit too much faith. Yeah, a little bit too much faith. Faith in the doctor, faith in Laurie, and yeah.
Hold on. I don't think he had faith in the doctor. And in fact, I think he was giving the doctor shit most of the time, because the doctor started coming off like right away, like, hey man, we got to apprehend him like peacefully. And he's like, the fuck are you talking about? He's like, no. So I don't, and again, use whatever word you like. I didn't get that read off him. And again, acknowledging I do have a Will Patton bias.
And I liked Toby Huss's character too. I think he was kind of a goof, but I liked his character.
I'm sorry, which character?
Like a dad to me.
He was the dad.
I don't know.
Yeah, he was the dad. He had that dad kind of thing.
Peanut butter on his penis.
Peanut butter, exactly. Exactly. And let me tell you, the best character in the movie was a male. The little kid that was being babysat.
Julian.
Best character in the movie.
In a different movie, yes.
Yeah.
I think he borrowed his babysitter from Rob Zombie's movie.
There's a lot of Rob Zombie.
I liked the babysitter. I liked her as a character too.
Yeah.
I actually cared about her character. When she died, it was not cool.
More than the granddaughter.
Yeah.
That's a really good. That's a good point. The granddaughter for me was nothing. She was frankly annoying. Whereas, and again, I can't remember her name now, but the babysitter was kind of entertaining. To be honest, she reminded me a lot of Annie from the first movie. Mm-hmm. She was kind of a wise ass. She'd take suffer no fools. I don't know. I thought she was entertaining.
Had a difficult position there because the granddaughter is basically just a way to connect us to the younger generation, but you still got Laurie there. So it's like in the original film, you would have had a Laurie character. With this one, they really just needed her as a conduit, right? They tried to give her a little something. She kind of goes on her own little quest there. But for the most part, that was kind of her character, and I think that's why her friends almost seem like more interesting to me.
Did she seem weak to you all? Did the granddaughter seem weak to you all?
She didn't really get much to do.
Yeah, like until the end, where they kind of gave her her pat #MeToo moment. But like other than that, I agree. Yeah, she kind of seemed sort of impotent, especially compared to Judy Greer and Jamie Lee.
Yeah.
This movie gave me a #MeToo movement.
I think the granddaughter was intended. I think the granddaughter was intended to be a I don't want to say a prop for Laurie, but I mean the relationship between Laurie and the grandma, it seems like Laurie was trying to make up for the faults that she made with raising Judy Greer with the granddaughter. She raised Judy Greer to be Sarah Connor. She was trying, and she realized later in life that she'd made mistakes. She trained her right, as we saw at the end.
But did she make mistakes?
Well, but I think it was. Well, I mean, I guess it was a necessary evil. That it seemed like she was trying to curb some of that with the granddaughter, right, while at the same time being very protective of the granddaughter, because the granddaughter had not been trained the way Judy Greer had been trained.
And she was definitely supposed to be like a Laurie simulacrum, but I think just part of the problem is there were way more characters in this movie than there were in the original Halloween. So we get a lot of time with Jamie Lee just like walking around. I mean, just think about it. There's like scenes in Halloween where she's just like carrying her books, like walking up the street, and we spend time with her. We just didn't spend nearly as much time with Laurie's granddaughter in this movie. So, I mean, I'm picking on her, but I really shouldn't, because it's just like she just wasn't given the same room to breathe as Laurie's character was. I mean, she's like one of 4 main characters in Halloween. Here, there's like 20.
Mm-hmm. Let me get Stingray's thoughts on the film. Stingray, what were your overall thoughts on the new Halloween?
I mean, fucking kill me, but I really enjoyed the film. I really am shocked, man. I mean, well, in Mike's opinion, I'm not shocked, but
I liked it.
It's.
I liked it, Jay. Come on, man.
Dude,
Let's talk about it.
I'm right there with you, Jay. I don't know.
It's a terrible movie, and I don't like it. It's my fault. I love that.
No, I'm just like, man, like you saw much of those sequels, right? They were fucking garbage, and I mean, this was fun.
So
like,
that makes this one good in comparison. Shit is shit. A turd is a turd.
Yeah,
you can't say one turd makes another turd better.
I mean,
it's all shit.
Well, let's
film. I mean, like, I don't know, man.
I don't want to cut you off here, Stingray, but I want to raise a question to Mike and to Lauren, who disliked the film, and to people out there too who really hated the movie. Do you think maybe you went in with too much expectations, too high expectations? Were you wanting too much of what is essentially the 11th Halloween film?
Yeah, I realized going into a movie hoping that it's good, are lofty expectations in modern cinema. So maybe I'm guilty of that. I did pay money to see it, so I was hoping to get something back on my investment.
Well, Mike, hold on a second. So at least when Lauren talked about, like, he felt like tonally there were problems. There's some other things. I disagree with him, I think, on a lot of that. But like, what specifically didn't like what are some specific things that, like, you didn't like the story, you didn't like the characters, like what are some of the specifics? Because it's like I personally, like, what I'm hearing you say is like I just hated it, and I'm sure you have reasons, but it's like maybe that's a better place to start. Like, what specifically didn't you like?
I'm not yet, so I'll wait my turn. Yeah, I do have a few positive things to say. I did like the music. I didn't. There are some people that hate the Halloween 2 from '81, what they did with the music, but I like that too. Right? I liked the soundtrack to this movie. I thought it was well done. I like some of the cinematography. I thought some of the shots were nice. So the lighting was pretty good. And then the rest of it was garbage. The characters were shit. The writing was shit. Yeah, okay. Now I just saw it today, so the wounds are fresh. This is fresh anger. I literally got home at like 6 o'clock. Okay, so yeah, okay, yeah. Or come back to me later. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
my expectations were lower than Mike's. I can guarantee you that. I wasn't even going to see this, except for we did the show tonight. So I saw it yesterday, and like that's how little faith I had that it was going to be anywhere near decent. So I mean, I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised.
Was because
It's okay. It's okay to enjoy things. You don't have to hate everything just because it's new.
I'm supposed to lie to myself and try to convince myself I like something that's terrible.
No,
Why?
I just feel like if it's like older than like 1985, like it's shit to you.
That's not,
I mean,
I
I got
was
to
trying
see
to-
the movie, man. It's like the only thing I've heard you talk positively about, like in a long time.
well, Halloween is my favorite movie of all time.
You
Right?
know,
If they tried to remake Jaws, I'm pretty sure it would fail.
sure. And
And they
this,
went back too far. They're rewriting the ending to the original. So now that Michael is just your average psycho guy that's been in jail for 40 years, and now Laurie's a raving psycho praying that he gets out so she can kill him, that's not stupid.
what
how
would
is
you
that-
call this? This is not necessarily a remake. It's a,
Howard from The Mask, because he was okay until they showed him The Mask, and all the other crazy people are freaking out. And what is it? The Haunted Mask? Is that what this is now?
Well, they talked about
which we'll get to probably later. I laughed out loud. That was complete garbage.
Well, they talked about, they actually referenced something in this movie that I was happy to hear, because it was reviving a concept from the original movie that we hadn't heard in a long time, which was, if you remember, Loomis has a speech on the lawn of the Myers house, Mike, remember? And again, if it's your favorite movie, you probably remember, where he's like telling the sheriff, like the sheriff is accusing me, all you do is make big speeches. And Loomis makes the comment, he's like, there was just some secret silent alarm waiting to trigger him off. And they actually were referring to that concept again in this movie, which that kind of brought me forward in my seat a little bit, just because none of the other movies really addressed it again. Loomis kind of talked in generalities about he's evil, there's something in him and whatever, but like I was kind of interested to hear that. And I think I disagree with you that the movie's making him seem like some borderline psycho. I mean, I think the movie actually is doubling down that he still is evil, but that there is some trigger inside of him. There's something that happens that just activates him. And I mean, again, I don't think they over-explained it. I just, and again, I'm not, think what you want, you didn't like it, whatever, but I'm just saying, like, that was something they brought back that I very much liked. And I felt like it was very reverent to the way the original movie talked about it too.
Mm-hmm. I actually think the less
behind that boy's eyes was pure evil. And he spent like the first amount of time trying to reach him and the rest of the time trying to keep him locked up.
Yeah.
He sat there inhumanly patient.
Yeah.
There was nothing inhuman about him in this movie.
I mean, he still got like shot and stabbed, and it didn't. I think that's being overblown the way they kept talking about how they were humanizing him, or they didn't want him to be like some cult member. I think all they meant about that is that like you couldn't. He's not like Jason from like Part 7. Which he kind of was in like Part 6, where like you couldn't really do anything to him. I think they wanted him to be like he was in the original movie, where like, okay, he's evil, but like Laurie stabs him, she pokes him in the eye, he gets shot, and he still keeps going. I mean, he was wounded in this movie, but again, Laurie shot him in the chest, and he was still like unaffected by that. So I'm just saying, like, there are things in the movie that I just don't think bear out that they like humanized him. I mean, that again, that's my point on that.
I kind of agree with you, and I think the less that they explain, the less
natural element so important.
What was that, Mike?
Do it, and these guys had to do it. Removing the supernatural element to Michael Myers. It seems like all the modern filmmakers, they spend so much time trying to do that they don't bother to make a good movie.
Well, I think they didn't try to explain too much, because again,
right.
Remember, they tried to explain Part 1 by saying that Michael was Jamie's sister, and then that led all the way up to the Curse of Thorn. That led to a way too much explanation and backstory. So I mean, the less with Michael Myers, the better. You know what I mean? Whatever triggered him, doesn't matter. What triggered him to kill his sister on Halloween night in the first place? What triggered him to come back 18 years later to kill her, to stalk Jamie Lee Curtis and her friends? What triggered him to come back 40 years after that to do it all over again? I don't care about those things. I just,
right.
If they do explain it, it's going to be dumb,
And we're assuming that that's even like we're even assuming that the mask is what did it. Like that Sartain seems to think that that's what did it, or that seeing the mask, or that just being on the bus did it. But honestly, it could still be completely random. Like we don't know. People just sort of advance a theory. Sartain says, I don't know, I think that's what happened, but I wanted to see him out here. And I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize time.
Well, it's also Halloween, and maybe it's just a time period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were there any issues that you had with the movie Stingray? Did you have any issues with them rewriting the end or taking out the brother sister angle or anything along the way? The pace. I heard a lot of people say that they didn't like the pacing. I thought the pacing was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Stingray.
Yeah, the pacing. All the rewriting stuff. I mean, I'm not cool with that, but I understand why they did it. I think the brother sister angle actually would have benefited in this film. I don't know why they did that at all. It's like it didn't even matter, the fact that they took that out. They even made a joke about it at one point, didn't they? They're like, when they were wondering if that was his sister.
Yeah, that was the only time it was brought up, or like it just didn't matter that they didn't take. I was like, it was just for that gag almost.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the point that I was on board when he, when the bus crashed, and then that weird kid talking about dancing all the time.
Yeah.
I want to dance, Dad.
Dad, fuck hunting.
I just want to focus on my dance.
I thought he was a girl.
Yeah. when Michael killed that kid, I was like, all right, fucking gloves are off. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah. I was shocked by that.
That's a big taboo, for everybody. So, when he did that, and then you guys remember when he was going to whatever the blonde babysitter's house, making his way over there. He went in the house, like killed a woman, and then there was a crying baby.
Right.
Towards the crib. Weren't you guys like,
yeah, I was
because
thinking,
he killed the kid, I thought there was a possibility he might do something to that baby. Yeah.
Man, it's about to get real dark in here. But yeah. No, I thought it was cool when he killed the kid. I like that.
Yeah, I thought that was sort of a nudge to the audience, like, okay, we're not, like you said, the gloves are off.
And he's just so brutal, like Rob Zombie style, but he like grabs people and like just crushes their faces and stuff. Like, I don't know.
I will say the gore in the film I liked. I did like some of the kills. I did appreciate the effects. That was a positive. I didn't understand why he needed what is an RPG? They're going to reshoot the scene from part 2 where he has to grab a hammer to acquire the knife, and he had to kill the lady eating the sandwich because it was important.
Yeah,
but he could walk by the baby. Because just to make it for that simple, that was the only reason the baby was even in the fucking scene, was to make us go, oh my God, is he going to kill the baby?
Well, hold on. So just because they talked about that. Apparently, an actor did not show up. Originally, there was supposed to be someone else killed. The lady's husband was supposed to be asleep on the couch, but I guess he was just like an extra in Charleston, and he didn't show up or was late, or I don't know, and they had to film the scene. And so they were like, well, let's just do this. So I mean, I hear you, Mike, but I don't think their intent was to like just be like, oh, he's gonna kill a baby. They had a different idea. I think he was just gonna kill someone else too.
Wait. You're telling me that a movie production can't find another actor for that role? I mean, I call people into work because someone falls out a half hour before their shift.
I haven't
have to
had
take
much
what they say at
training,
face value.
but
I mean,
I
that's what they said in an interview.
I've never, I haven't had a lot of acting training, but I think I can pull off guy asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we
it
don't
shouldn't
know.
be too fucking hard.
We don't know if like that was like a big gore, like maybe that was a gore scene, like maybe there were makeup effects, or maybe there was something, and if the guy they figured the stuff out for is not there, like they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have to take at face value what they say in an interview. It could be bullshit, but that's what they said.
Can I ask a question seriously, though? In this same movie where we're talking about, it's going to get real dark because he might kill a baby, we have a rave dance scene, and we have absolute slapstick remake of the first film with the babysitter. The movie has such tonal issues. There's these shifts that really bothered me.
Well, you could tell which dialogue Danny McBride wrote.
You sure can, and that was another problem I had with it.
And I didn't mind it. I liked that little kid. I thought that little kid was funny, man. I thought that little kid stole the show. That little kid, I mean...
Would you have been okay with that kind of dialogue in the original movie?
I mean, this is 4 years ago. I mean, this is a modern movie.
you could like Tommy Doyle, the way he's talking to Laurie is probably about as smart ass of a kid as you got in like 1978. Like I think that's that movie's version of that kid to some extent.
Well, and the little girl was making fun of Annie for getting stuck in the laundry room, and
right,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, kids are not the same as 1978. I don't know.
That's for sure.
It's written for a modern audience, and it played for a modern audience, and they're the people that you guys are pissed off that are giving it good reviews.
Well, it certainly wasn't made for fans of the original.
Okay.
But hey, I'll always have the original, right? That's what they told me when zombies shit on the screen. So I guess I should have the same condolence now.
Mike,
there are
if you
people
want
out there that love those zombie films, by the way.
I cannot. Well, they're Rob Zombie fans. That's the thing, is I think you need I don't think those are Halloween fans. I think those are like Rob Zombie fans. And Halloween fans, I think, are pretty uniform in thinking that his movies are garbage.
You know, I'll have to say though, as much as I hate those movies, and those are my least favorite Halloween sequels ever, this movie made him look kind of creative.
Wow.
Okay, you're on a different planet.
It didn't make the movies better. It didn't make the movies better, but it made some of his creative choices a little more understandable, I guess, or a little more appreciated.
Okay, I'll give you topless Danielle Harris. That was a very creative choice, and I would not change a scene of that. I agree with you. Got it.
No nudity in this film. How do you guys feel about that? No nudity in this film.
I wanted to touch on a topic that Raiho and Cole mentioned in their video, and it was a topic that I kind of brought up in my review of the movie, and that's that I felt like this movie gave us moments. Well, I mean, this was a really well made, well shot movie, and I think the
well, except for the editing.
But we got those little moments. Like there's a moment in the movie after Laurie's had her meltdown at the dinner where she's just chugging the wine and she starts crying and she walks outside and it's just kind of like a close up on her and it's just despair. She's just in complete despair.
Yeah.
And then they cut to across the street and the traffic's going by and Judy Greer comes out and they kind of have a moment. You wouldn't get like little, that moment would have been cut out of Halloween 6 in a second. That would have been the first thing to go. That moment would have been cut out of most slasher movies. That'd been the first thing to go if it went over, 88 minutes. That's the first scene that we cut down. But I think that this movie, I think it benefited from the fact that it wasn't. I mean, David Gordon Green is not really a horror director. He's a movie director that's directed a bunch of different kinds of stuff. So I thought it was a really well made movie, and I thought it gave you those little character-y moments that you don't see in a lot of other horror films. So I think that alone, I mean, part of the hype of this movie is that you have somebody like David Gordon Green directing a Halloween movie, the 11th Halloween movie, that you have Jamie Lee Curtis back in the 11th Halloween movie. You got John Carpenter producing and writing the music for the 11th Halloween movie. It's an event movie if you're a horror fan. Did you catch any of that, Raiho? Was that kind of on the same page as what you and Cole were talking about when you said, this is better? It's a better made movie than a Halloween movie should be.
Yeah, that was like one of the first things that grabbed me, like right off the hop, was how it was shot and everything. Like it just looked like, I mean, I'm not saying it was high cinema, but it was kind of like a little more opulent than I would have expected.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, that scene where she comes out and the cars are driving by in the street, like they held on to this like real tense, powerful moment with her kind of breaking down and she can't quite handle being with all the people, and then she goes outside and they still held on to it with kind of like the background and everything, and then the granddaughter comes in and just hugs her and it kind of like lets out a little bit. Like they made a film.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which totally shocked me. It was one of the first things that grabbed me.
Laurie's scene earlier in the movie, I think, is powerful that way. The scene where she's sitting outside Smith's Grove, I was actually struck by that scene. It seemed like it belonged in a different movie, and I don't mean that in the negative way that I think Lauren might say that, but I meant it in the sense that like I thought it was pretty powerful.
Do you know where that scene comes from, though?
Where?
So there was reshoots to the film, extensive reshoots to the film. Originally, Laurie runs the bus off the road. to get at Mike.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
When she shows up at the dinner, that's why she's late, and that's why she's so freaked out. But test audiences, right? Test audiences, right? The first test audience rightly said that makes her responsible for all the deaths. They didn't dig it, so they cut it, but they left the scene of her drinking in the car in, which is, I think, a terrible mistake because, frankly, she goes from completely shit-faced in the car to kind of just buzzed again and picking up wine at the restaurant. So there's a slight continuity issue caused by the removal of the scene.
Well, I didn't think she was. I mean, maybe she was drunk in the car, but yeah, I didn't. I perceived it more as just she was downing, a little liquor in that one shot, but it was more like it was like it was one of those vodka things.
If she had like a paper bag and she was like holding
Okay.
But I mean, similar to the shot by the side of the road, I was just sort of struck by a number, like in that scene. And again, it was sort of, I thought, enhanced by the subsequent scene at the restaurant, where just like Laurie's like just full of like impotent rage. And even just the sight of him from like yards away, he's behind guards and fences and in a bus, like she's still terrified of him. Like that. I don't know. That was an effective scene and just similar to the one by the road. I remember it stuck out to me as just like, this feels like this would be cut out of this movie normally, or that it belongs in something else. Like it was an interesting choice to me.
Let me ask Lauren and Mike this question. What did you guys think of Jamie Lee Curtis's performance?
Do you want to handle this first?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think her performance is great. Unfortunately, all they gave her to do in the film is be really angry and drunk. It's a really bizarre thing because when you cut out all the sequels, she had a really, really, really traumatic, horrible night 40 years ago. And they tried to build a character that I just don't see. Here's my issue. It's not that people don't change. And it's not that you don't have triggering events that cause changes. It's that, and we can do this, we can go around on this. Is there any character trait besides the actress playing the character named Laurie that is the same between the 78 film and this film? Can you name anything that is a similar character trait? Anything. And that's not a failure. That's not a failure of Jamie Lee Curtis. That's a failure of the writing.
Well, I mean, you have to keep in mind who was Laurie Strode when we first met her. She was this teenage virgin, worried about who's going to take her to prom. Sure. Now she's,
but she was introspective. She was thoughtful. She was concerned for other people. She didn't have the best self-esteem. There's a lot of aspects that could have been put on screen, but that's not what we got. We got scared that Michael Myers is back, but then angry that he's not back, which is interesting. I don't mind any of that range. I just wanted something to tie her character to the original. And it's not really there, besides having the actress, which is a big crutch.
Go ahead, Monty.
I think on that note, I think had the movie, my issue with it is that the movie is very busy. Like there's just like all these people, and like even when they go to the gas station where there's just so much going on. And I think if they would have took some actors, some people out, made it more quiet, slowed it down a little bit, and actually took out the granddaughter didn't have to be there, or maybe take the daughter out. Maybe the daughter would have been dead, and you have the granddaughter. But if you would have took out some characters, I think there probably would have left more room for exploring some of Laurie's character to make her more rounded than just being drunk all the time. But as it is, it's so busy, there's no room for it. And you're going to the prom and the boyfriend, and that doesn't go anywhere. So there's things they could have taken out to put that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
And
so I think
that's the problem too, is you don't really have a point of view character in this film. The granddaughter actually seems like it's going to be the point of view character, but unfortunately, she's not there for half of the climax. She shows up late to the party. Well, she's at the party because that makes her late to the real party. And Laurie can't really be the point of view character because it changes the film too fundamentally. They provide the podcasters in the beginning as somewhat of characters that are the expositionary point of view characters, right? They catch you up on everything that you need to know between films, but then they're discarded. And that's kind of what I was talking about before, is every 10 to 12 minutes, the movie shifts into being a different movie. And some of those sections I actually like a lot more than others. But it really is an unfocused movie. And I think, you want to know the truth, I would have rather them not do the reshoots, even though they were problematic, because I think you would have got a tighter film that I would have been a lot happier with. I'm sounding more negative on this than I am. This is not my least favorite Halloween film. This isn't even my third least favorite Halloween film. But I'm reading reviews comparing it to the original, and I don't see that at all.
Here's one
I
thing
mean, that is unbelievable to me.
One thing I noticed, so we were watching the pre-show, and you got the talking heads up there saying stuff, and they were having an interview, and basically the guy was saying, like, I don't know, it was baffling to me. He was like, we're having a sequel now, 40 years after the original, and like talking about it like it was like as if there was no fucking movies in between. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was like, I got that vibe was like it was like, it wasn't that they were just like trying to erase the history. It was almost like people don't like the whole idea that they thought they had to like redo the ending to the original because no one would know. Like I was like, I that's crazy to me. like this movie's it was just about everybody's seen Halloween or at least knows something about it, and like you have a concept of how it probably ended. Like the idea that they felt like people are that stupid that they had to redo the ending.
Most people, even if like when I forget, like my mom saw a trailer for the new Halloween, and she's like, because she was the audience that saw the first film in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, or maybe I mentioned it to her, I don't remember, but she goes, they're making another one of those? And I said, yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is back. She goes, the guy in the white mask is still stalking Jamie Lee Curtis. And I go, well, yeah, he's still after her. And then she's like, well, how many of those did they make? So she knows they made more.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know them individually. That's kind of, I think, what they were banking on. And honestly, I mean, unless you're a hardcore horror fan like we are, I mean, try walk up to somebody randomly in Walmart and go, hey, what's your thoughts on Halloween 6? Do you prefer the theatrical cut or the producer's cut? You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I just thought it was weird that it was like we were in a movie theater, surrounded by people that are there to see that movie at that time, and this guy's acting like he's like, oh yeah, 40 years later we're having a sequel. Isn't that crazy? And I'm like
yeah, Jay and Eric, that's why I expect more out of you guys. You're supposed to be in the know. I'm sorry if I wore my They Live glasses to the theater.
Oh. What's up?
Let's talk about one of the more controversial inclusions to the film, and that's the character of Dr. Sartain.
Oh,
now
facepalm number what was I had 2018 of them. That must have been early in the film.
I facepalmed when Laurie meets him and she goes, "Oh, so you're the new Dr. Loomis." I was like, "No, God,
little on the nose."
No.
Yeah.
I hated that part, and
I didn't like it because it also was patently untrue based on what happens too. If anything, Laurie's the new Dr. Loomis.
That's what I like. You get that vibe almost immediately,
right?
So that's what I was saying before. It's like they tried to shoe in like for a twist, for the sake of a twist. They tried to like shoehorn in another character again. Like he was one of my least favorite parts. That's why I'm still bagging on the film. I feel like I'm coming off wrong, but
when he and of course, I mean, this is a huge spoiler. When he kills Will Patton, it was so out of left field that I literally sat back in my chair. I swear to God, I started having Rob Zombie's Halloween flashbacks. I felt like I was like, is this the turning point where this movie just goes completely downhill? Then he put on the mask. And he goes,
jumped over the hood with the ooga booga, right?
And
that was good.
And he goes, Michael is dead. And then he puts on the mask. And I'm going, okay, no freaking way.
The movie lost me at that point. When he I was with it before that, but when he put on the mask and he killed Will Patton. Come on.
That I didn't like, but I didn't like that more from like an intra-movie reason, like, hey, don't kill Will Patton. he didn't lose me.
There was no purpose. It didn't need to be in the movie. Like it was like, why did they have the need to put that in there? Why can't they just keep it simple? It was fine. and they threw that twist in, and it just threw in, and then he puts Michael in the back seat. How does
he lift him?
This guy's like my grandpa, and he put Michael Myers in the back seat.
I sort of took it that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, and then he's in the back seat with Laurie's granddaughter, and he wakes up, and it's like, oh, there's a teenage girl right here I can kill. Fuck it, I'm gonna kick the fucking seat in and kill the doctor and watch her run away.
I've always thought that Michael had some sort of a twisted sense, like it's not morality exactly, but like the fact that he went after Sartain didn't surprise me exactly. Because he has, again, there's something sort of like odd and twisted about like the way that he behaves. Like Sartain was like more deserving of death. Like, again, it's almost like Michael follows movie logic to some extent. That didn't bother me so much. Like, it seemed like something he would do. And I'm basing that off of his behavior in some of the other sequels too, by the way.
It was definitely because of the script, but I don't think it was because of logic.
Well...
But I think the movie could have benefited. He didn't even need to be in the movie at all.
Oh yeah,
no,
he didn't need to be in there at all. What I would have preferred, since Jamie is supposed to be like the new Dr. Loomis, wouldn't it have been awesome if like she went into a room and she pulled out some letters from Dr. Loomis? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like maybe she flipped through some old letters from Dr. Loomis, and no cheesy fake British accent voiceover, but just.
But did you find that cheesy? Because I thought they did a remarkable job of that.
Yeah, I like that voiceover a lot.
I didn't like it.
At first, I was like, did they actually like extract him saying things from other films?
No, it was a voice actor. It was great. They Grand Moff Tarkined it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was actually like not the like. I just thought that they did that well. I thought that sounded like him. I don't know.
I did too, Raiho. Don't worry about it.
Well, guys, Donald Pleasance is dead. He can't be in the movie. I know he's not alive anymore.
But I thought that would have been like a touching moment for like she saved these letters from Dr. Loomis, where I don't know but what the content of the letters would be, but just that she goes back to these things every now and again, and you know what I mean, she remembers the guy who saved her life, and she appreciates the guy who saved her life, and we get a nice little ode to Donald Pleasance as well.
It's not a movie about men saving women, that's for sure. That's why they wanted to rewrite the ending.
What was the original ending?
Well, it was going to have Laurie shoot him off the balcony rather than Loomis. That's the whole point.
Well,
Well, that was the new. I thought that was the beginning. Or you mean they were going to do that at the end too?
They were going to have the ending be she shoots him out, and then they have a knife fight.
Like no, I'm saying the point of them rewriting the original film's ending was to remove her being saved by a male character.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're
saying. This
saying.
movie has to end with 3 women in having been victorious over the bad man in the backseat of a car or a truck, choked with battle scars. That's how this movie has to end, because that's the thematics they've set up. That's why initially having Loomis as the savior didn't work for the screenwriters. I'm telling you. And then they smartly realized that didn't work, but now they're left with it not being as satisfying because it doesn't really follow its own logic. The same problem with the granddaughter character is there specifically just so she can have the scene where her boyfriend cheats on her, and then the guy who's supposedly being chivalrous walking her home gets all rapey. It's the thematics. That's why this stuff is there. That's what this movie's about.
By the way, I don't want to jump off the Sartain thing too far, because actually I think I'm alone. I actually like the Sartain character, but that part, actually what you're talking about, is actually a scene that struck me as a little odd and surprised me, because like it sort of felt like that guy was like the fat friend, like the goofy character that we're supposed to feel sorry for.
Why
and the movie,
the boyfriend get killed?
Well, right, that's like the movie was making that guy out to be like villainous. And I don't know, maybe it's just the politics of 2018. Like, I just thought of him as kind of, that dopey kid in high school who kind of, he likes the girl who's prettier. Like, they don't align in social strata, but he tries to kiss her. And the movie just, like, the way she treats him too, like, just, I don't know, that part came out of left field for me a little bit, where I was a little struck by it. And then the fact that he dies and the cheating boyfriend doesn't, that was just odd to me. That part was strange.
Cole and I had that exact conversation. Like, I swear, like word for word what you just said when we were driving. Like, we didn't record any of it. We were driving. I said, wasn't it weird how they kind of framed that guy up to be the jerk when the boyfriend was the jerk? And I was like, I hope there's a deleted scene where the boyfriend gets off randomly.
Well, he didn't have a chance to redeem himself either. He throws her phone in the pudding, and that's like the last we see of him as he stands there in his Bonnie outfit.
Yeah.
Which we didn't bring that up either. The reverse Bonnie and Clyde shtick.
That's a big part of the thematics, right?
Yeah.
That's why
I can't say that though, because then I'll be paranoid.
Sorry, just regarding Sartain though, and especially like I actually sort of liked his character more once the movie was over and I started thinking about more things, because in the opening scene of the movie when the documentary people are like talking to Michael and they're like, you know, showing him the mask and like they're just like everything's like getting out of control, like they kind of kept cutting over to Sartain and he kind of seemed to be like encouraging them or like it's okay. And I remember thinking at the time like that's very weird and odd. And then just little snippets of his character when he would talk about things like, oh yeah, he was Dr. Loomis's patient, but he kind of talked about like, you know, I think even makes a comment like he cares for Michael. Like that's how he characterizes him as his patient, where like Dr. Loomis like wanted to like lock him up and throw away the key. And this guy seems to be like obsessed with like really trying to understand him. And Loomis's whole point of view is it's like, I don't need to understand him. Like he's awful and terrible and we need to just get rid of him. And so I didn't mind the twist as much because I don't know. I kind of like the spin of like that, you know, that sort of bureaucratic character, almost like the Paul Reiser character in Aliens, where it's like, you know, these things are terrible, but maybe we could harness it or maybe we could understand it. Like, to me, that's a very like slasher horror movie concept, which, you know, maybe that's trite, but it didn't. I don't know. I guess it didn't strike me the way it struck a lot of you guys. Like I didn't mind him. Like it sort of made some of the other parts of the movie make some sense. Like frankly, I think Sartain is the one who engineered the bus crash. The movie doesn't come out and say that, but it seems like that's what happened.
Well, I was going to go there. I was going to say it might have been a little bit better had they followed that point up, because it seems to me like the doctor was actually fascinated with Michael and wanted to see him in action.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he orchestrated the visit to try to get a reaction out of Michael.
Exactly right.
When that didn't work, he's the one that organized the transfer.
Yeah.
And then caused the bus crash to set him free, and then followed him around so he could live vicariously by watching him. Well, and then when he kills the cop, he says, so that's what that feels like.
Right.
And then he puts on Michael's mask, right?
Yeah.
So but that's just it. This movie is horribly written, because that could have been like an interesting thing, but it was just glossed over. And you kind of have to know what we're doing right now is classic for a bad movie. We're rewriting it. We're making it better with our ideas. If you do that, then you're talking about a bad movie.
Well, if you remember too, he even argued his way on the bus. Like, and to me, I sort of thought back to that immediately. Like, he argued his way onto the bus, which makes me think that he absolutely did it. I don't know, Mike. Like, I don't know that a movie needs to draw like a bright, shining arrow on everything, though. Like, I don't know if I would call that bad writing. Like, I don't know if everything needs to be drawn. And again, I'm not going all the way to the David Lynch direction where you explain nothing and nothing makes sense and it's complete nonsense. But like, a little bit of ambiguity is good. And again, I think it's an open question. Like, did Michael try to escape, or did Sartain kind of like loosen the handcuffs or something?
Yeah,
I personally don't mind that ambiguity, but
I'm disagreeing with Monty though. I mean, there was too many characters, there was too much going on, and they didn't focus on anything. So everything was like that. It was like, oh, it could be this or it could be that. Oh, we're going to wipe away all the sequels, but we're going to put visual homages to everything in the movie. Well, if you're going to wipe away all the sequels, why would you put visual callbacks to all the sequels?
One of the things that I caught, well, at least to me when I was watching the film, was that they wanted to erase all the other sequels, but I thought this doctor character was just Dr. Wynn from Halloween 6.
Yeah.
That was all I saw. The second I started hearing him talk, it's just like that scene from the producer's cut where he's talking about we want to restore balance and that whole crazy thing. it was just the flip side of the same speech. Yeah. That he made in that film. So to me, I mean, they tried to ignore the other ones, but that was Halloween 6 to me right there.
What were you going to say, Stingray?
No, I was just going to say, like, I assumed that, he sabotaged it all and let him loose. I thought that was pretty much what you're supposed to think.
Okay.
Well, because he even makes a comment at one point, like, I've never seen him in the wild.
In the wild, yeah.
And he seems kind of excited when he's like, again, I didn't apply this meaning to it until after the twist with him happened. But like when he's talking to Will Patton's character, I think he makes that comment, like, I never saw him in the wild or something like that. And he sounds regretful about that.
The error here really isn't so much Sartain's character. It's that they set him up for a fake Loomis, but also had a real Loomis in Laurie.
Right.
Like what they really needed to do was go full blast with the Sartain thing, have your twist, and change Laurie's character. But they wanted to have Laurie be fighting him like the way she did at the end. So they ended up with this. There was a mix there that they just
did anybody else feel cheated that they didn't show what happened during the bus? I wanted to see Michael on the bus tearing these people apart.
Oh man, I want to see a thumb through the forehead. You know what I mean?
I would have taken it. I think they honestly, and I agree with what Rahul was saying. I think they should have set Sartain up as evil from the get-go. I think they should have showed him pulling out a little key, unlocking Michael's handcuffs. Maybe even, maybe he could have whispered in Michael's ear, Samhain, and that just set Michael off. And then he starts, killing everybody.
I don't even know. Like it kind of throws you off. Like when you get there, and there's all the people are walking around. There's only one guy. He's not even dead. Like I almost wonder if he didn't even he just didn't crash the bus and Michael just got out and didn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like honestly, like there's one guy there. He's not finished, but he says run. So I guess you have to assume that he did. Like Michael did do something to make the crash. But I kind of wondered, because Sartain's still on the bus.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if Michael got out and left, do you think you'd follow him? So I don't know. Like I always kind of think he just crashed it. By the time they get there, he's literally just walking around.
Because Sartain makes a comment, but I don't know that you can take anything he says at face value. He makes a comment to the police about how Michael had already overpowered the first guard or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, again, it's ambiguous. I don't know, but to me, I think he engineered it somehow. How he did it, I don't know. Would a scene showing it have been better? Again, I don't know that either, but
we need a prequel. We need to make a prequel to show how that.
I would like to see him
prison bus.
Do that, because whenever you transport criminals like that, they're in ankle chains, belly chains. I mean, they're so chained down. How is he going to overpower anybody? He'd be chained to the damn chair.
Yeah.
Somebody had to set him free.
There is one thing that, and I don't know if this is canon because the television scenes in Halloween, which were filmed during Halloween 2, I guess those don't count anymore. But if you remember, in one of those scenes, Dr. Loomis, he appears before the board and he's basically like, so when are we transferring him to the maximum security place? And they're like, we're not doing that. And he's like, what are you talking about? This is a minimum security facility. This is not enough for what he needs. And they don't believe him. So there was a part of me wondering, A, why it was that Michael was back at Smith's Grove. But again, maybe I've answered my own question. Maybe Smith's Grove is being positioned as it did have the right amount of security now. And again, that prison yard was pretty intricate. But that was something I thought of too, that just, again, it may not apply this because the sequels are all mush.
Right. Right. Well, and I noticed that somebody had said that all of the other movies were referenced in here. I'm glad that the references weren't right in your face. It's if you're going to ignore these movies, ignore them. Don't oh, there's the mark of thorn on the wall, or oh, there's the, you know what I mean? There's the cops do it by the book shirt over in the corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Seeing the Halloween 3 masks, that was kind of cool. I dug the Halloween 3 masks.
I was looking for them. I was so excited when I saw them.
But I'm glad they didn't go full blown, you know what I mean? Every shot has got some reference to a Halloween movie that this movie pretends doesn't exist in it somewhere. You know what I mean? So
some people are saying that
I was expecting more. So it was a bit restrained, but it was still there.
It was there. My biggest worry going in was that they were going to do The Thing. You know what I mean? The Thing set itself up. It's it's a prequel, but it ended up being a beat for beat remake kind of thing. I was worried they were going to do that because I saw the trailer with the ham scene, and I was like, oh man, they put that right back in there. And I saw she's in the shitter at H2O or whatever. I was like, man, they're going to remake this movie. They didn't. They kind of took. They did have that scene with the ham, but they put a little twist on it, and it was pretty quick. And they had the scene in the bathroom, but they made it their own. Anyway, I was very worried they were going to do way too much of that and just make this movie like a straight up remake of everything they decided they were going to pretend didn't exist, and they didn't do that to me. I was okay with that.
I loved the sequence in the gas station where we watch Michael walk in the background into it, and then we see Michael in the background like beating the one guy to death.
Well, like the one thing that I would take away from this movie too that we haven't hit on yet was like we kind of did the gore and the brutality of it. I mean, that scene, that one kind of like was one of the ones that set me off was when like he's in, because we've seen the trailer at this point. We know he drops the teeth. So I'm kind of like, where does he get the teeth? And then you see that guy's face on the counter. And his like jaw is like Jello, and I was just like, oh. And then then he has the teeth, and like that. Like the movie was the violence in it and the gore in it for me was on point. There was only one kill scene that I thought looked really bad, was the knife through the back of the neck.
Oh yeah,
that was really, but everything else looked like really good. So I don't know.
Well,
the shapes.
One connection between Michael in the first film and this one, I thought, was that sense of humor. He's got, it's not the sheet, it's the teeth, or it's putting the girl under the sheet, or it's, hiding in the closet. Of course, that's the most obvious place the boogeyman would hide, right? Well, things like that sort of brought it back to, he's evil, but he's got a twisted sense of humor.
Even in the original movie, when he put the headstone, which is so over the top, he put the headstone in the bed. He also had a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It kind of nods back to that quite well. That scene when he's in the house.
What did you guys think of it's a very brief sequence where we see Michael at the graveyard near his sister's grave, like he just wanted to visit it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. He was just there to visit.
That should have been longer.
I thought he was pursuing the documentary people. I didn't think he was actually even there to see the grave. I thought he was after them. That was what I took from it.
He followed them all the way to the gas station, killed them, got the mask.
Right.
Now, when he got the mask out of the trunk and he put it on, now, I've told you before, I think the mask looks like David Caruso from was that CSI Miami? When he put it on, was anybody else expecting that Who song? Yeah!
It would have been great if after that, then he put on
then he could put on some sunglasses, and kind of look at the camera. Good. Yeah.
I thought the mask looked pretty good, really.
I did too. But
the mask looked great.
The skin did have a shitty David Caruso quality.
It looked like it stunk. It looked like it stunk.
Yeah.
Like that. Like the other when Sartain put it on, I was like, dude, that's got to be dank. Like that's got to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
The dude that played the one cop who got his head turned into a jack-o'-lantern, which I thought that was kind of dumb. I mean, Michael's got.
I thought that was so cool when he had the fucking flashlight in it, because it looked like a pumpkin through the thing, and I'm like, oh, he's got a fucking pumpkin, and then
it looked like something out of Halloween 5.
I thought that was.
Well, those cops were a Halloween 5 reference, right? That was what I took from it. They were the goofy cops.
I
reference Halloween 5.
If anything, they were the most respectful reference to that terrible movie that I could have ever imagined. Just having two goofy cops.
They were one of the like, as far as the funny scenes go. Like I was watching that scene and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like the explaining Bon Me and the other guy with the brownie and peanut butter. Like I was like, what is going on here? Like that felt the weirdest to me, that scene. I got a good laugh out of it.
Said, man, this movie is, it shifts tone all the time, and it's just when you're starting to get into something, switches it up to something else, and I don't know.
Well, let's talk about the music, which I think, of course, John Carpenter came back to compose the music. I thought the music was pretty good. There was one moment toward the end where the granddaughter is being chased by Michael, and the score just really swells, and it's that synthy, stinging, kind of stabby kind of sound, and I'm so accustomed to the Halloween score that kind of up to that point it hadn't registered that much to me, but then at that moment I was like, oh, that's right, John Carpenter wrote this score. This is pretty freaking cool. And then I started to really sort of key in on the score and digging it. But you guys' thoughts on Mike, your thought on the score for Halloween?
Well, I thought the main theme, of course, was respectfully represented. Of course, Carpenter just, he wrote it the original anyway, so of course he's going to play his original stuff. I thought some of the incidental music was kind of out of place.
Yeah.
There was one time I thought I heard the Goosebumps theme, which seemed kind of weird to me. But somebody said something about the title sequence. That was great. I liked Haddonfield, Illinois, and all this kind of stuff. And the pumpkin, was rotted and then it's coming back. That was cool. Nice concept. This movie did have some good moments in it and some good ideas, but overall, outside of the music, some of the lighting and cinematography and the gore, I just didn't like how Laurie was written. I didn't like the doctor character. I didn't like the boyfriend. I didn't like the boyfriend's friend, the daughter. I mean, there was just so many characters that I couldn't get into. I can't blame the actors necessarily. But Laurie is Ripley. Why is she so obsessed with this guy? For 40 years, he's been in the asylum down the street, apparently, a couple towns over, whatever. And she's got an arsenal in her basement with the whole kitchen thing. I was just what? And then of course the ending of the movie. The ending of the movie is directly dependent on what happens, right? So what?
Well, let me ask you guys this because they set this up a couple of different times in the movie, that a monster made a monster, and in the end, who was the better monster? Did you guys pay into the Michael Myers made Laurie into a monster and maybe even a better monster than he turned out to be?
No,
I didn't.
Because I think if they were going to go with that concept, I think maybe they would have made her a little bit more violent at the end of the movie. I mean, way more violent. I mean, I'm saying something like, bite his ear, bite his whatever. I mean, I think she should have been nastier if they were going to go that route at the end of the movie.
I thought Laurie was more like broken and pitiful than she was a monster. And I say that in a complimentary way. I did like her performance. I did like what they did with her character, and just from all the interviews, and maybe it's just Jamie Lee Curtis herself, but I kept expecting the movie she was going to be like Ripley and this like untouchable badass, and she was going to be like Buster Rhymesing her way all over Michael Myers, and I was really glad to see that they barely beat him, which is like what I want. Well, to some extent.
Halloween, Michael.
Well, okay, that's the one thing I was not a big fan of, but generally
how about
speaking,
the part
their
where
fight was good.
she falls off the roof or like he did in the first movie, and he looks down and she's gone.
And you didn't like that, right?
No, I didn't like that. And
I
in the
did
part
like that.
where right before she says "Happy Halloween, Michael," she's the one that steps out of shadow, and her face appears out of the dark to attack him, like he did her in the first film.
Yeah, but it's an homage. I mean, what's wrong with that?
It's not original.
Because it's an homage.
but I think they wanted to show that Jamie.
But they switched places.
That Jamie had learned. Jamie had picked. You stare into the abyss long enough that the abyss stares into you. She'd kind of maybe taken on some of those traits of the shape, and even I mean her. I loved the scene with Judy Greer where she's like, "Mom, I can't do it," and he appears and she's like, "Gotcha."
I love that.
What I mean?
Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was cool.
You gotta lure him in.
Something that Jamie taught her as a kid. I mean, I thought that was really cool. Like, gotcha.
That flashback sequence of the Sarah Connor raising of Karen, I actually did dig that. I thought that was kind of cool. Even though Laurie wasn't really Sarah Connor at the end, I thought it was just kind of neat seeing this sort of paramilitary upbringing she put her daughter through. I don't know why, that resonated with me.
But I think at the same time that was one of the things that she regretted, that she had to raise her daughter that way because of Mike. I don't know.
No. She actually says a few times she doesn't regret what she did.
She doesn't have to do any of this. This is a big problem. This is a huge problem. All she had to do when she had her daughter with her still, when she was training her in the house, is move across the fucking country. That's it. If she wanted to keep the kids safe, that's all she had to do. She didn't have to ruin her kid's childhood.
Well, I mean, now we're judging the character's choices.
You're committing the cardinal sin of any horror movie. Never bring logic into a horror movie. I don't care if it's an A-list horror movie or a B-list horror movie. Never bring logic into a horror movie.
She's mentally unstable. Like, she was just terrified of the fact that he was alive. I mean, that's the real monster is mental health.
Well, here's the thing. Like, how many people do you know were born in a place, they live in that place, and they never really go anywhere? Like, I myself, I did move across the country, but there's a bunch of people I know from like my high school and my childhood. They still live back where they lived, and I see them not going anywhere ever. Now, I know your point would be, it's like, well, some psycho killer didn't try to kill them. Maybe there's reason to leave, but to me, it's not out of bounds to think that a person might just feel paralyzed and in a place. I mean, hell, maybe Laurie's budget for making her house a giant compound, she couldn't afford to move anywhere at that point.
Well, but
she saved like $100K in the damn house.
Her motivation is right there. She wanted to kill him.
Exactly. The point was she wants to be the one to kill him.
Her only way to feel safe is to know he's dead. So she stays because she wants him to come out and she wants to kill him. That, whether you like it or not, that's what the motivation was, and that's why she was doing what she was doing.
And besides, they already did that in H2O when she moved to California and changed her name to Carrie Tate.
Yeah.
I thought this movie was ridiculously better than H2O. H2O to me is bland, it's watered down, it's far more intent on being a hip 90s Scream type slasher. She's an alcoholic, so let's show her having a drink once. Yeah, there's a wedge between her and her son's relationship because of Michael Myers. Let's show them have one argument. You know what I mean? Let's show that she's still paranoid about Michael Myers because she sees him in a storefront one time in the movie. That's character development right there.
Yeah.
Now let's bring Creed onto the soundtrack. Now let's have some Dawson's Creek cast members show up. You know what I mean? This movie
you had to bring Creed in it, didn't you?
This movie obliterates H2O, in my opinion. Obliterates it.
Yeah. H2O is mostly a disappointment, I think.
Well, even Jamie Lee Curtis said she only did that movie because of the paycheck. She said she wanted Carpenter and Deborah Hill and them back to do it with her, and when they didn't want to come back, she said, "Screw it, I'll just do it. I'll get paid. I didn't get paid for Halloween 1 and 2. I'm going to get paid here. Let's do it."
Do you guys really think that in, say, 10 years, if John Carpenter's still with us and Jamie Lee Curtis is still with us, they're not going to be saying they did this one for cash?
Oh, well, sure, they did it for the money. Of course. You think John Carpenter does anything for?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't roll out of bed.
You think Jamie Lee Curtis didn't do this movie unless they had to pay them both a king's ransom? There's no doubt about that. And in 10 years after they're done promoting the movie, who knows? Carpenter might go, it was okay, or it was a piece of crap, but I got paid well. Same thing with Curtis. You know what I mean?
I feel like the fact that he did the score, though, to me, that almost lends like some credibility. Like, he was willing to do work. Like for the H2O, like he basically just collected a created by credit. You know, for the zombie movies, he collected a created by credit. He actually worked on this one. I mean, because he was even as a producer too.
He's been promoting his music though. He's been touring.
He's on tour.
I think it was just, I'm going to put my music in this movie to get my music out there. I really I think he did a great job. I really did like the one thing I would say is that a lot of it I didn't know. Like a lot of the music I wouldn't have thought as Carpenter. Like I didn't really notice it. But when he did the Halloween theme and it had this really cool piano and then the guitar riff over the top, it was kind of like a little spice to it. Like I thought that they did a nice job of what was there. But I think he did it because he was promoting, like he's out on tour smoking it and.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's all about the zeros and the promoting his music career.
I do think this. Jamie Lee Curtis was allowed. Jamie Lee Curtis phoned in H2O. I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis phoned this in.
I agree.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
I agree with that.
She played this.
Jamie Lee Curtis, exactly. She brought her A game for this one. I think it shows on screen. So
I don't know.
I just
don't know if she phoned in H2O though. I just think H2O wasn't really very well written. It was Kevin Williamson. Like he really wanted to be writing Scream 3, but they gave him this.
And 20 years from now, we'll be saying the same thing about this one.
I thought she was good in H2O. I thought her performance was good. I mean, that movie just had no atmosphere to it, no danger. Michael looked goofy in it.
Yeah.
It just the kills.
There's more Laurie in the H2O character than there is in this one.
It's very watered down. What were you going to say, Stingray? Go ahead, Stingray. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I mean, if you're an actor or director or whatever, and something is not well received, don't you just say I just did it for the money? wouldn't you just say that? You wouldn't be like, "Oh man, I was totally fucking invested in that." And
Well, how you know that somebody, particularly an actor, is out promoting a movie that they know is bad? All they say in the interviews is, "I had so much fun making this movie. We had so much fun, blah blah blah, and it was just fun." You know what I mean? That's how you know they're out promoting a bad movie that they know is a bad movie. They talk about how much fun they had, off the set. You know, oh, we shot it in Hawaii. It was beautiful. I boogie board every day. You know what I mean?
what is that? I Know What You Did Last Summer 3. It was great. It was a fun time.
Let's see what's going on out in the chat. The chat's been very lively. Let's see. We got some people supporting my thoughts on Halloween H2O. Let's see what else we've got going on here. H2O was bland. H2O was 90s sleek and glittery.
The really neutered score in H2O is another thing that's particularly offensive about that movie. Like, I don't really want to hear the Halloween theme conducted by like a 70-piece orchestra. Like, I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
And they took pieces of the score from Scream and they just plugged it into the movie.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
What was it where he's walking down the hallway and the student, and I remember seeing in the theater, like, why is this? And I'm like, oh, that was in Scream.
If you remember Halloween 25 Years of Terror, the composer is interviewed and he said, you know, I created this huge orchestral score for the movie, and I took pulled out all the stops from the original score, and you know what I mean, it was this huge production, and then in the end they scrapped all that for yeah, you know, and so he was not happy. He was not happy.
I mean, it sounds cool in Scream. It just doesn't sound cool in Halloween.
Yeah.
Well, John Ottman's score was released on CD, and very little of what he composed is in the movie.
Yeah.
Basically, the title sequence and the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis turns around in the parking lot and decides to go back, that's the only cues that remain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dimension knows best.
And here's something. I've seen a couple of people mention that there were a lot of scenes in the trailers that were not in the film.
Oh yeah.
And particularly the one of Laurie and Michael in the backyard with the knife.
Oh yeah.
So they described that scene. There was an article that just came out where, like, I guess the script pages leaked. They talked about that. I mean, I can tell you, it's basically like the fight somehow spills outside. Maybe it's like Lauren said, where like she's shot off the balcony or she falls down, and apparently like Michael stabs her, badly, and it's Karen who like shoots him with a crossbow or something. Yeah. And Michael just kind of like wanders away and like falls over and I don't know, dies.
No, they shot it. It's Laurie, I'm telling you, because there's scenes in the trailer where you see Laurie do this thing where she spins the knife around and she goes at him. But
that's the scene.
They shot the whole ending where, so the ending is he stabs Laurie in the chest, but you don't know if she dies. And then he just walks into that mannequin field and sits down, and apparently his breathing slows. So you don't know if he died, and then it ends. Oh no!
And then there's other things that are in the trailers too, like Will Patton is like looking out the window of the house, and Michael appears in a door behind him. Mm-hmm. I think the babysitter that we liked, or some of us liked, I think there's a scene of her showering. I think it was her.
It's the podcaster.
So there was a scene with her in the shower.
Yeah, so there's a scene with her
in the shower. Maybe there was nudity. Why the hell they cut it?
Open it up. It looks like it's Michael.
Exactly.
That was the scene. So there's going to be deleted lines.
Someone in the chat reminded me that there was nudity in the flashback stuff.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we get to see Michael's sister naked again. So, you know.
Mr. McNugget, our old friend Andrew's watching with us tonight. How are you doing, sir? I believe he was a big fan of the new movie. I could be wrong though. But yeah, it does seem like the everybody watching tonight, it's pretty split. Some people are saying they loved it. Some people are saying they hated it. A couple people are chiming in. You know, I thought it was okay, but it really seems to be like a love it or hate it kind of thing. Lots of Sarah Connor mentions, lots of Terminator mentions as well. I see. Yeah, a lot of people agreeing that it was a busy film, which it was. I mean, there were a lot of characters. There was a lot going on. But yeah, Mr. McNugget did apparently love the film. So
Yeah.
I saw this film at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and it was the most people I've seen in the theater in probably 2 or 3 years. Like,
Oh wow.
that is crazy. Like, there was a 60-year-old black lady right next to me, and I was having more fun watching her watch the movie. She was loving it, man. She was like, "Oh shit, don't do that," and like the whole time. So I mean, the crowd really seemed into it. I mean, the crowd I watched it with, which was mostly women, believe it or not. I think I may have been the only guy in there.
Well, one test that I have with movies, particularly in the theater, is once the movie starts, people shut up. 15, 20 minutes into the movie, if it's not got their attention, they start talking again. They bring out the phones, they get up, they start moving around, blah, blah, blah. With this movie, after the movie started, I don't remember people talking. I don't see seeing cell phones. I don't even recall people walking in front of me to go to the bathroom. So I mean, the movie seemed to capture, the majority of the people watching it. And when we got out, there were a lot of people who were pretty happy about it. I hung around. Did you guys hang around to the very end?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I thought there was going to be a post credit.
Okay. At the very end, Dr. Loomis appears. The ghost of, no, I'm just kidding. At the very end, you hear breathing again.
Yeah.
I guess to let everybody know, hey, guess what? Michael's not really dead.
Yeah. And they've been playing that up in interviews too.
Gosh.
Now, well, and they are already writing the sequel.
Of course, this thing's made like 100 million.
The sequel I guarantee the sequel will be out this time of year, 2020. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
But one thing is, why do they have to tell us so early? Why can't we have time to just sit on it and breathe for a minute and like have it come unexpectedly? Right.
I think I just think it's because there's like an entire media culture that's around like knowing this stuff the minute the studio signed any sort of check for them to start writing it again, some reporter picked it up and posted it. Like, I'm with you. I wish there was some mystery about it, but
give me some surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
sorry, just something I hadn't seen, Piz. Something that I think it came up when the movie was being made. And it's funny, I liked the movie, but I keep bringing up gripes. One thing that bugged me is I like Judy Greer. I like that actress a lot, in fact, because she's from Arrested Development, and she was in
Cursed. She was in Cursed,
right? I don't know. Generally, I think she's pretty hot, and she usually gets topless and things. But I really wished, and it's pure fan service, but I really wished they would have got Danielle Harris to play her daughter. And I know that it's like maybe they might have thought it would have been confusing to some people. But then again, these are the same people who don't think anybody paid attention to the other sequels anyway. I just think for fan service, I would have liked it if like they actually would have finally been on screen together like mother and daughter. Like they were never actually together. Again, that's a geeky complaint, and I recognize that, and I'll let it be. But that was one thing, and I just haven't seen too many people mention it, so maybe that's just me.
My buddy Max Punishment is in the chat. He says, despite the problems, it was captivating. Now, Max, I know you were not a fan of the movie. Would you like to explain what you did not like about it in the chat? And I will read it here momentarily. Let's talk about the ending of the film. And Michael, we discovered that the little safe house underground wasn't a safe house. It was a trap. It was a cage for Michael. What did you guys think of the end? I gotta say, but before you guys chime in about anything, I really dug the Michael just looking up at them while the whole place burst in flames around him. Him just standing there like, you think this will stop me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just waiting for the flames. You know what I mean? I couldn't tell. Was he like, good game, or like, this ain't nothing? You know what I mean?
I think that it was important that they did that because they had so many points in the film where somebody wanted him to say something.
Right.
Sartain brought it up. The podcaster guy at the start, like, it kept playing in such a way, like I said to Cole, I was so scared to death that he was going to say something. Because like they kept bringing it up, like as if they were going to have this, oh, it's such a good imagine he says something at the end. I was so scared they were going to do that. And instead you're treated with this, the whole place is burning and he's just like, I can't get to them. You know what I mean? Like that's his, it's like I can't get through those bars. Like that's the look, really. It's like if I could get to you, I'd be killing you right now, but I can't get to you. Like to me, that was how, you know what I mean? So I liked that. I was so scared they were gonna make him say something fucking stupid like "mommy" or something. I don't even know.
Oh, that would have been cool.
What if he lifted up his mask just to show his mouth and he went, "Sister"?
Yeah. Oh, something. I just was. Oh, imagine.
Wasn't that in one of the H2O scripts, like one of the early ones? Didn't he say something? I don't know if that was a real script I read. I read a.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and I remembered thinking, like, thank God they didn't do that. That's terrible.
I thought it was a cool idea that they locked him in the basement like that. Just my whole thing is I just wish that there would have been like more physical activity, more action, more suspense. Just kind of like the Halloween 4 ending with him on the truck and then on the roof. Just give us some more thrills with the scares, and maybe feel like one of them is gonna die. Like have Michael stab one of them in the stomach or slit her throat or something, and raise the stakes. It just didn't.
Well, it sounds like they did that, and the test audiences didn't like it. But I'm with you. I wish like any of them had been more injured than they were. Like Laurie fought him the most, and she's like, I don't think she's even bleeding, is she?
Well, she got stabbed in the gut.
I think there's a lame attempt to make us think that Laurie's possibly dead when the other two are in the panic room. When she's screaming for her mom, when she says, "Mom, I can't do this."
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to think at that moment that maybe Laurie is dead.
Mm-hmm.
The movie doesn't really explore enough of its ideas for me to really say for sure, but I thought it was hinted at anyway.
So the ending of the film is supposed to reflect what we heard in the fake Dr. Loomis voiceover, where he says someone needs to make sure he's dead and then burn him to ash immediately.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to be she's supposed to be fulfilling Dr. Loomis's wish of cremating him alive. That's all fine. The problem really is at that point that the movie just doesn't. Let's put it this way: if the whole plot was to get Michael there, she did nothing to make that happen. She just assumed he would come for her. But again, they removed all reason for him to actually go for her. If he's not, the sister-brother thing isn't there. It's not like he's run into her and has followed her. He just ends up there anyway. So that's my thing, is that they didn't build the ladder to get to their ending. They just got there because he's following the granddaughter, right? But then he arrives at the house before she does.
Yeah.
So he didn't follow her. How did that happen?
Yeah.
There's some gaps in the writing that probably are the reshoots, frankly. They probably had something there that we don't know about. The cat just bit me.
The cat was a fan of the movie.
Well, she doesn't always have great taste. But so I think like that's more of a problem. I do think though, just from a practical standpoint, if you have these sharpened bars that slide in just incredibly violently, you wait till Michael's about halfway down and you push that trigger, and you just cut him in half, and then it's done. You don't worry about burning down your house with an incredibly dangerous gas situation that even in building it was probably dangerous.
Well, let me see what my buddy Max Punishment had to say about the film. He says, "My fundamental problems is that the movie erases the other movies, but it only makes sense if you take the knowledge of those movies into this one. If you watch the first one and then watch this one, it's not the same Michael. However, knowing the other movies, there's a natural evolution of the character." What do you guys think about that?
I'd agree with that.
Nah, I don't.
No.
Well, that's okay. You and I, we're good. That's all right.
In the first one, the only thing was you get more of a view of it, like, you know, the gore of it. Like, I mean, he's still killing people with his hands until he gets his knife and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that, but
he was certainly a more brutal Michael Myers, which is actually something I like.
I've seen them all.
Yeah. I mean, I liked this portrayal of Michael Myers, but I guess I just don't know that he's so fundamentally different from how he was in the first movie. And I suppose you could even make an argument, and if I'm trying to defend it, and I am, that maybe, you know, he was released, then Halloween 1, but then he's locked up again after 40 years of like being pent up. He's more brutal. He's like got to get it out of his system. I mean, I don't know, but I didn't find it that jarring personally.
I mean, I think one thing that I noticed was in one of my disappointments. I mean, it's just I didn't feel there was enough stalking. That was the part of Michael that I would have liked, and that was the best part of the movie to me. Was the house killing thing. Was that felt a lot like 1, and it felt a lot like 2, where you're just going with him as he watches people before he does his thing. So I think that would have made him feel more like the original Myers, but you know, they just had to make it go faster.
Well, let me.
I actually do agree with that.
Let me do an introduction here, because this, even though this man needs no introduction,
I didn't even notice he did.
he deserves one. Making his season 7 debut, Cole. Cole, how are you? He's loved. Cole is like this movie. People love him. People hate him.
Cole, bring some sanity here, man. We need your help.
Yeah, Cole, what were your thoughts on the new Halloween film?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to do this at all. By the way, I was in my Zen cave, ignoring everything, but there's just tuning in periodically and stuff. And I don't know. There's a lot of nitpicking going on. There's a lot of overanalyzation, which I know I'm just as guilty of doing with certain things. I don't know. I think a lot of you have completely lost the plot. You've lost context. You've lost self-awareness. Oh my God, people. It's hard for me to organize my own thoughts about the film, and I'm sure it's the same way for all of you. And honestly, this whole show is really, it's not even a good idea, because the movie just came out. It's all so fresh in our minds. We haven't really had time to absorb it properly or think about it. I really wish I could have given it a second viewing. Yeah. I saw it with Ryan last week. I'm sure Raiho has, talked a little about that. And I'm sure I will certainly repeat some of the stuff you guys said. But I don't want to keep people in suspense. I think it's a success as a movie, and I think it's good. I mean, I have to put that again in a certain context and stuff like that. I don't know. It's hard, because I think my favorite slasher franchise is Halloween, but I'm not predictable in the way I feel about it, except for the highs and lows. Like a lot of people, I love the first one. Think the first one stands out as the best, and like a lot of people, I think the Rob Zombie films are a horrible crime against humanity, and worse than garbage, and have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. But once you get in between that, I'm very finicky and weird, and I have all sorts of weird reasonings for liking certain ones and disliking other ones and liking this one more, as people do. But at the end of the day, it's a slasher series, and I just feel like we've left that behind in this conversation in the way we're talking about this movie. We're talking about the movie being too busy, or we're talking about the movie not building proper. I don't know, man. It's a slasher. It's supposed to rack up a body count, and it's supposed to get to an end point where the killer is stopped in some fashion. We're overcomplicating the hell out of this. But I'll say what I think everybody here who either likes the movie or dislikes the movie seems to have the same things that I do, is that I do think it's unfortunate that they feel the need to wipe out the other continuity and just make this the first sequel since the first one. I think, they were just taking on way too much trying to do that. Maybe they thought they were simplifying things, but I think it has the opposite effect. Because, especially for people like us, it's impossible for us to view this movie through the lens of somebody. We can't just turn our brains off like the other movies didn't exist and didn't happen. We're not wired that way. It doesn't work. So I think that's problematic. And what's funny was the movie was first announced, I had very minimal enthusiasm for it, beyond the fact that I thought, well, it will be nice to do something that'll be a palate cleanser after the Rob Zombie movies, because I felt like whatever it is and what's terrible can't be worse than that. But to that point, one of the main things I didn't care about and this is something that makes me different from a lot of Halloween fans, is I didn't care about Jamie Lee Curtis. I felt like the movie was getting a lot of press, especially in beyond, horror movie audiences. It was a big deal. This is going to make everybody take notice because Jamie Lee Curtis is back. Like, she's the savior of the series, and she holds everything together. I don't know. I'm an old school Halloween fan. I've seen movies she's in. I've seen movies she's not in. To me, she is not essential. And everybody's already said, didn't we do this 20 years ago with H2O? Yeah, we did. But I think it's a lot better than H2O for sure. H2O is watered down. H2O is simplistic even for a slasher, and it's dull, it's unimaginative, it's plotting, it's an unfortunate side effect of, it was great. I love Scream, and it was great that Scream helped revitalize the genre and get it going, and maybe Scream alone might be the most responsible for them even making an H2O. But it's trying too hard to ape Scream and stuff with its weird MTV feel and its cast, and it's too goofy and weird with LL Cool J. Too many people live, for instance. Way too many people get out of that movie alive and stuff. But the one thing I can give that movie is that even though Jamie Lee Curtis, I agree, somebody said I think felt like she phoned it in. Yeah, I think she did too. But as far as the writing for her goes, I could reconcile that character with the original character. I could sort of see some of the original Jamie. Laurie in this Laurie. In this movie, I can't, but I don't hold that against the movie as a flaw because I think that's the exact point the movie's making. They're saying the old Laurie from 40 years ago has been obliterated. She's gone. This movie's making a longer point about trauma and how trauma
don't use that
people.
word. Come on.
Okay, fine. You don't want.
No, I'm
trauma?
sorry. I'm joking. It's because Jamie Lee Curtis says it in every goddamn interview, and she's annoying about it.
See, I avoided all that stuff. Okay, fine. Emotional damage, whatever. Anyway, the emotional, the toll it's going to have throughout the generations. And like all you two, I also thought 40 years is so long. Like, is it going to have the same sort of impact? We're talking about a guy that killed some people 40 years ago. It feels like you've kind of defanged Michael, because at least in the sequels, when he was locked up for 10 years, he was like in a coma or something. And, he was never really caught. And this movie's just like, oh yeah, he was caught, which I agree is stupid and undercuts the ending of the other movie. So there are a lot of things I can hold against this movie, but I like the broader point it's making about, okay, I won't say trauma, but the emotional damage and the toll it takes, because we see that Laurie has now been reduced to a shell of her former self, and it's leaked over through the generations, affecting her relationship with her daughter and her granddaughter. Okay, yeah, I get it, guys. Not every character is great. Some characters are strong, some characters are weak. But tell me the slasher that has all great characters, because I would love to hear about the slasher that's just loaded with wonderful characters that you root for every single one of them, and every death you're come on. There's going to be disposable
Friday
characters.
People talk. Friday the 13th.
Of course,
exactly.
Likeable, lovable. Anyway, people talk about plot threads like being snuffed out when they get, or characters being disposed of. That's the fucking point. You dispose of these characters in the most in the most entertaining way. Not always the most logical way, but the way that is most satisfying following Michael Myers. So I have no issue with that. I know a big point of contention is this other doctor. I agree he's a bit weak, but they're trying to do something that's not wholly derivative with him by making him instead he's not the new Loomis, he's the inverse Loomis. Instead of being horrified by the evil, he's fascinated by it. I get it. And some people say, well, that didn't really go anywhere. Where did you want it to go? Please, where did you want it to go? The floor is open. Where was it supposed to go? Because if it keeps going, it turns into Halloween 6. Is that what you want? I like Halloween 6 for all its dumb flaws, but I don't defend it as a good movie at all. It's a stupid mess of a movie. This movie's not a stupid mess. This movie doesn't have pacing issues or editing issues. This movie doesn't have logic issues beyond the normal logic of any fucking slasher out there. Oh my God, there's been so much whining and nitpicking about these little things. And I don't know. And that's why I'm here, because I was just going to let it go. I was too stressed. I didn't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not trying to sweep everything under the door and say, oh, you should love the movie. No, I'm just saying, given how this series has gone over the years and what we faced and all this stuff, this movie actually makes me hopeful for the future on kind of the genre, because I feel like this is the first slasher that's been taken seriously in forever.
Thank you.
The production values are through the goddamn roof. They didn't just cut and paste the old music. They actually show an evolution of the music.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things to praise in this movie. I have problems with it. I have problems with this movie, but there's some sequences that I think are so good and so well done and so in line with the tone of the series and the style of the series that I was kind of amazed, because I thought 40 years later, now Michael's in his 60s, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like they've demystified the character. I feel like they've kept that going. I mean, what did he do for 40 years? Not much. He did that thing where he switches off. I mean, that's not exciting or interesting, but that's kind of what Michael does. He switches off. And I heard, various debate about what got him going again. Was it the mask? Well, geez, Mike, I don't know. The whole point is it's not telling you. That's just your own assumption. You're just assuming that they put up in big red letters on the screen, it was the mask. It's a magic freaky mask. That's your problem, Mike. That was how you decided to see it. That's not necessarily the intent of the filmmakers, and that could be interpreted in any number of ways. And then, we can talk about the bus thing. When I first saw the movie, I thought, it is unfortunate we don't see the bus crash. But then I realized, because we don't see the circumstances of it, it adds a little ambiguity, it adds a little mystery, as you guys already talked about, whether or not the doctor was involved in it. And I don't know, I've heard people talk about how could he even do it, or restraints. It's a slasher. Again, I don't know.
He ripped a kitchen island off the floor. He can't pull chains. I mean, come on. I mean,
and people say, why didn't they move? Well, Laurie didn't move because she was waiting for it, and her family didn't move because they were making that exact goddamn point. They're saying there's nothing to wait for, Laurie. We're going to live our lives here because we're not afraid. Laurie might have even told them to move. She might have said, "Here, move to China. I'll pay for it." And her Judy Greer would have said, "No, you're insane. You're messing up my family. You're lucky I let you see my daughter at all. We'll stay here." That seems perfectly normal to me. Anyway, I like the movie. I don't love the movie. It probably falls somewhere in the middle, but I feel very hopeful about it, and it's nice to see it taken seriously. And probably the thing that's most pleasant surprise was, as I said, I didn't think Laurie coming back was a big be-all, end-all, but as people said, she seemed to take it seriously. It was fairly well written. I mean, it's a little bit much, the conclusion, but I get what they're going for. The 3 generations of this family standing up together against Michael. I mean, sure, okay. I'm glad that was actually done quickly. Like, I'm glad it wasn't like a long, drawn-out thing in the house. I'm glad that just kind of kept going. Because when I saw previews, I was worried there was going to be a lot of cat and mouse stuff in her weird, bunker house for the nuclear holocaust, whatever she's got going there. But they moved through that quite quickly and stuff. But no, I didn't have any problem with, say, pacing or story and stuff. Yeah, some of the characters bugged me, and some of the characters didn't. You guys have made some good points about the other babysitter. She was a fairly likable character, and she tried to take her job seriously. She was those teenagers screwing around, but she tried to take her job seriously and protect the kid. You feel a little bad. She dies trying to protect the kid, stuff like that. There's a few jump scares, but every slasher has them. They're probably not great. They're very predictable, but I'm not going to pick on this movie for that. Every slasher I can think of has predictable jump scares, and of course, the age we live in now, they show half of them in the previews, so you know exactly when they're coming, which doesn't help things, like particularly the part towards the end when she has her head near the glass and Michael's hands come to the glass. We all saw that, so thanks a lot, people that released the previews. Probably we could have guessed that was coming anyway, but instead of guessing it, we actually saw it happen beforehand.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Somebody said the cops are incompetent. Sure, the cops are always incompetent slashers. Hell, in part 5, they even talk about how they're incompetent. I mean, yeah, the cops are incompetent. Big staple of being slashers. Probably the character that disappointed me most was her dad. Her dad just seemed like cut off from reality. He didn't seem to understand anything that was going on ever.
I liked him.
Like, you know what? One of the best parts of the movie is, and not to cut you off, but he burns in that fucking house. Like, no one's wondering where he is at the end of that movie.
Because he is a worthless
He got
character.
stuck in the closet at the top, and where's Dad at?
He's living in a fog. He has no idea what's going on around him, and he doesn't seem to care either. It's like, okay, we got to get the cops. Oh, the killer's out. And he's just like, like, he doesn't change. He never seems worried or upset or even nervous. He just drifts through the whole thing like it's a big joke. He's really weirdly cast too. Does he in any way look like he'd be married to Judy Greer? Like,
Yeah.
they look like they come from completely different backgrounds in the world.
I thought he was gonna be. I thought he was gonna be like Laurie's ex-husband, or I thought he was gonna be like Ben Tramer or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I guess Haddonfield just doesn't have a lot of options.
yeah. There's not a lot of options, I guess. So, but anyway, it's a good movie, and you guys have all gone insane talking about it. And I mean, I get it. So I've had the benefit of just sort of sitting on the sidelines. but my God, some of you, I don't know. You seem to have just completely.
Well, my only
lost
rebuttal
touch.
is if this were any other slasher film, I would agree with you. But this is Halloween. This is the reason Friday
hold
the
it to a
13th
high
was made.
standard, sure.
You know, this isn't just Happy Birthday to Me. This
I agree
isn't
with
My
holding
Bloody
it to a high
Valentine.
standard. I agree.
And My
entirely.
Bloody Valentine had characters that were great and that I cared about.
Really? I
Cole,
love My Buddy Valentine, but really?
Yeah, there were some good characters in that
Who
movie.
did you love? Sarah? Yeah, Sarah's a real classic. Whoa, yeah.
The guy with the mustache.
Cole,
Yeah.
Cole-
The black guy that like pulled them apart and was like, "Go, don't fight, guys." Yeah, he was really.
Well, they were
deep.
adults instead of teenagers, and that was refreshing.
Well,
They
this movie had a
jobs and-
healthy mix of both, really.
Cole,
This
I've got to
movie was
tell you.
adults and teenagers getting off. It offs a kid, which is pretty badass. I like that. I remember Mike was upset. He's like, "Well, we just had that moment looking at the baby." Yeah, it's called creating tension. Sure. What were you upset it was a fake out? Would it be better if there was no baby, or should he have stabbed the baby 25 times?
It was a cheap fake out.
Yeah, it's just more doubt and tension. It's like, oh, okay, we already know he'll kill a lot of people. Will he bother with the baby?
Well, you know he's not going to kill the
I don't
baby, but they
know.
put that scene in there just try to make me think that he was going to.
Probably, I mean, he killed a kid. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
he kill a baby too?
I was gonna say, like,
You know?
I didn't think it was cheap. Like, I think by having him kill
I
that
don't
kid
think that was
earlier,
cheap.
that was my point. Is I thought he
But-
might actually do it.
Yeah.
Cole, I just want to say your rant there was so captivating. I've nearly urinated upon myself because I've been dying to go pee for the past.
Well,
15
I'm glad it went that well because honestly, I was so disorganized in my thoughts, and I thought, okay, I need to do this in some sort of systematic way, or people will think like I'm just, that I've lost my mind, or I'm Rambo Raff or something like that. No offense to Rambo Raff, but he and I have very different styles, and I think if I tried to do his style, I just come across as an idiot. Only he can organize his thoughts in such a way. So, I mean, if it was a rant, I'm sorry. I just felt the need to get a lot of information out very quickly because, I don't know, I just got here and trying to catch up.
Rant may not be the right word. It was the only word that came to mind, but it was captivating.
I agree with Mike about holding this to a higher standard. I really do. But if you're saying that, then there just haven't been any good Halloween movies. There was the first one, and then every single thing was just awful by comparison. If you're holding it to that
Two was a good
standard, I-
continuation. 3 was a good oddity, and then everything after that, I'm going to have to say
now
that
you're
Friday
going
the
off
13th
the
had
top
better
of the-
sequels, right? Halloween's had some very weak
3 is
sequels.
the most ridiculous thing ever put to film. I mean, it has nothing to do with Michael Myers, so I don't care. But I just mean 3 is Tom Atkins and robots and a Celtic plot to turn kids' brains into spiders and snakes.
Exactly. I mean, it's not related to the main storyline, but it's cool for what it is. The rest of them I can't defend, and I'm not going to say that they make this one look better. To me, it wasn't good. And
I
the
still
mask,
like
he pulls
Halloween
out the
4
mask, and
better.
all the crazy people start going crazy, and then the soundtrack builds up, and then Michael's standing there, and it's just like, and then the doctor puts it on later. It was like, what was it? It's like the Goosebumps,
really
the
hung up
Haunted
on this
Mask
whole
or something. It was just seemed.
Yeah, you're really hung up on
Wow,
this
good
mask
reference.
thing. It's really interesting. I have to
Well,
say,
they used that as the thing to try to trigger him.
yeah, emotional
on.
triggers are a real thing.
We need to hold on a second. That is a very specific and awesome reference Mike just made to the Goosebumps, the Haunted Mask, because that mask does look a lot like the mask from the cover of that Goosebumps book. I'm sorry. That's just a very specific, very direct reference, Mike, and I give you kudos for that.
I can't remember it.
No, but do you guys think that this movie is better than Halloween 2 '81? Because I've been hearing a lot of crap about Halloween 2 '81. Like it's
It
not.
doesn't touch it.
No, I don't think
Well, that's
so.
what
I love Halloween.
I feel like Halloween 2 is awful.
I watch Halloween and then I watch Halloween 2.
I always watch them together.
That's my-
Either.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
let's
to me, Like the
And that
idea,
was
like we're all
probably the
talking
biggest
about, they took the potency out of the ending of Halloween. Halloween 2, he just keeps going.
And
Yeah.
that was my biggest problem with this movie before I saw it. I thought this movie just wiped out Halloween 2. And as we said, how problematic it is. And what they say is kind of weird and nonsensical, glossing something over. It's just like, oh, the cop came and stopped Loomis from killing him. It's like, really? Exactly. He shot him 6 times. He falls out the balcony. He looks down. He disappears. Oh, my God, he could be anywhere. And then what? He just goes downstairs. Oh, he's right over there. I'm going to finish him off. And the cop stops. I don't know. I admit that's pretty stupid, but I don't know. You just have to let some things go. Otherwise,
Well, that's
you
like the
can't accept
entire
anything about
premise
the movie.
of the movie, though. So, I mean, that's what kicks it off and makes it possible. So, if a dumb idea is where it begins,
I think that's what surprised me about the movie. It's a fairly kind of risky, dumb kind of idea, but it's still full of things that I think are very strong and very resonate very highly with the rest of the series. The kills are certainly on point. Some of them are probably better than I've seen in other things. The mask looks really great. Actually, that's one thing where the 40 years really helps. Seeing the mask aged actually makes it a little better. Like, it's so bright and white in like 4 and 5. I mean, we always talk about how shitty the mask looks in 5, which is true.
Yeah.
What I hate about how the mask looks in 5 and what he talks about is the neck part.
It's too
Is that
big. It's too long.
It's like fluffed out. It looks like he has gills or something. It's fluffed out. It looks like he's wearing a mask that's entirely too big for him. And this, it fits very well. Plus, they smartly have him put the collar up. So it's a very good look and stuff. It is a little weird, I have to say, seeing Michael sort of from behind and stuff, seeing a bit of his scruff, realizing this is a man in his 60s or whatever. But again, he's the shape, age doesn't slow him down. He's just going to keep going and killing. I certainly don't feel like he's been demystified or his supernatural elements have been taken out. I'm on board with the people that say it's kind of dumb that they made they actually went out of their way to make a point about him not being related to Laurie. Like, yeah, why did they do that? They make a point of it, so I was like interested in seeing, okay, so how are they going to do the movie? And then they did a movie where it wouldn't have really made any difference, kind of. It's like,
well,
why
again,
did you
I think it's because I think it's because their whole point is that if they're related and he's trying to kill her, he's going to go straight for her. He's going to work directly to find her.
He's never gone straight for her.
I agree. I think it's a flushy excuse. That's why they did it, though.
Killer, like a slasher killer. That's what you always do. You kill the people around them.
Yeah.
You heighten the thing. Why did he kill the doctor before the girl in the thing? Well, because he knew he could get the girl later. That's how Michael works. He's going to kill one, chase the other. Why did he get the house first to her? Well, obviously because he drove a car and she ran through the woods with no in the dark. So it's pretty clear to me why he got to the house first.
Why would he even think to go to the house? Where would he know where the house was?
Because he's Mike Myers, he's the shape, he's got that radar.
Well, they weren't that far up the road, though. If you remember, her driveway was just, it was like, 50 yards or something. Yeah.
How does he know how to drive?
He was
so
we're bringing way too much. We're trying to. We're doing the sin that John Carpenter made with the second film. We're trying to ascribe him motives. How did he know where Jamie was? He's the shape. Who cares? How can he do this? Those things don't matter to Michael Myers. Those things shouldn't be explored in the Halloween world. I don't think. You know what I mean? When they do try to explore those things, we end up with the Curse of Thorn. So,
I think the first film very simply sets up that Michael Myers goes back to his hometown. Girls yell at him from a car, and he decides, "I'm following him. I'm taking him out." There is a logic to what Michael Myers does in the first film.
But why? Just because they yelled at him? Why did he decide to escape that night?
The scary thing is they know.
Why didn't he kill that kid that ran right into him? That kid had the gall to run right into him. Michael didn't get fixated on that kid and kill him, did he? He just let him go.
So the imprinting is supposed to be random and supposed to be scary, right?
Sure.
No, by the way, I just want to stop for a moment because I didn't go into this film comparing it to the original because I was going to be disappointed no matter what happened there. I really didn't. Right. So 4 weeks ago, I walked to the movie theater, saw a film called Hellfest, and I loved to death. So my standard for slashers is not unreasonably high. If I go into a film and I really am having a great time, I can shut off my brain and I don't have to analyze this. When I get to the point where I'm thinking about these problems, it means the movie has lost me at some point. That's just me. I want this film to do great because I want the genre to be great. But if we're going to have a discussion about the film, I think it's completely fair to discuss what the film did. And I don't know, I can't turn that stuff off if we're going to discuss whether the film's good or bad, whether it affected.
That was unfair. That's completely fair.
Well, I think you have to analyze film in order to.
So let's pick yourself up here.
What's up?
Well, I think we're, and I think only hardcore horror fans like us are really going to spend this much time analyzing a slasher movie.
You think?
I was really hoping it would be already done before I jumped on.
To this degree, but I mean, I think it's the one thing that we can certainly agree upon is that this movie has been an enormous success, a huge success, and that the horror genre, thanks to this film, thanks to it, is in a huge upswing, and that they're already writing the sequel to this film. The New Line and Warner Brothers, who own Nightmare on Elm Street, they would be idiotic if they aren't already in some pre-production stage of a new Nightmare on Elm Street film, and so on and so forth. I mean, the headlines are LeBron James is wanting to produce the next Friday the 13th.
Oh my God.
For God's sake.
So
horror is a big deal. Horror is front page news again, thanks to it and thanks to Halloween. I wanted to ask you guys where, and it may be too early to even ask this question. Cole does make a good point. It's fresh. It's still very fresh in our memories. And I've been working on a Halloween movie ranking list, and I waited until I saw this film. But I'm certain that this film will be in the top 5. But where will it land in the top 5? So I want to ask you guys where you think this movie ranks in the pantheon of Halloween films, but I also want to ask you guys too. I mean, this is whether you liked Halloween or not, this is an exciting time for horror, because this will certainly be the launching pad for a hell of a lot more horror movies.
Hopefully.
And hopefully the one thing that they take away from it and from this movie is that these aren't, they're not hiring the music video directors that they were in the early 2000s to direct all these remakes that were garbage. They're taking these movies seriously. They're treating them with reverence, at least in my opinion. I know Lauren and Mike may differ on that, but you know what I mean? They're making B movie. They're turning B movies into A movies. These horror movies are you know what I mean? So where do you see horror going in the next 5 years, thanks to the success of these two movies? And then where do you guys think Halloween will rank in the pantheon of Halloween films? Rahul, why don't you get us started?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. I just tried to jot my list.
2 loaded questions. That's 2 big loaded questions.
I just tried to jot my list. Like, as you said that, I was like, where would I put this? And I was like, I don't even know. It's hard. Like everyone's made a good point of saying H2O is kind of watered down, but I've always kind of been of the opinion that the Halloween 2 and H2O were kind of a neat little trilogy. I would say I like this better than H2O. So, gosh, I don't know. Anyway, I was trying to make my list here. What was the other question? It was about the horror genre in general.
Yeah, where do you see the horror genre going in the next sort of 5 years? Thanks.
I think you're right. Everyone's going to cash in on the popularity, right? And there's going to be some strength to it for a little while for sure, because we've got It 2 coming out soon. Pet Cemetery is going to land soon. So and even on TV, I mean, we're seeing The Haunting Netflix show is doing really well. We just had Castle Rock, which I think did pretty well, and they're talking about a second season of that, and there's this big upswing. Someone's going to try to get it on. You're right. Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham are going to settle that shit out real quick, and you're going to see all the old ones come back. What I hope is that you see the movies like Hellfest get some money and get made. Like, I haven't even seen Hellfest yet, but that's the kind of stuff that I think I would like to see more of happen from this. I'm of course excited to see what they'll do with the old properties, but I think I kind of worry that we might get 10 years and then it's just going to bottom out again, because they're just going to keep putting the same stuff out, like the same tired stuff. We need the movies like a Scream to really give it a shot in the arm. Like I don't know if making another Halloween and making another Friday the 13th and another Nightmare on Elm Street, that's not going to that's not going to keep us going. So it's hard to say, but I'm hoping that we start getting some more original stuff, which keeps this train going, that we get to enjoy, more than a couple of years of good horror. That's for sure. So
definitely. What do you think, Eric?
In terms of where I'd rank it, it is kind of early. It's funny, like it was even just like walking out of the theater, I started thinking to myself, like, where would I put this? Because I liked it then, and I again, clearly I like it here. I don't know that I quite have the love for Halloween 2 that some of you guys do. I don't hate Halloween 2. I enjoy Halloween 2, but I've always enjoyed Halloween 4. I think Halloween 4 is like my favorite sequel. Like I would rank like the original Halloween 4 and then probably Halloween 2. I might put it after that, frankly. Like that's just, to me, I think it probably ranks after those three for me in terms of quality. I reserve the right to revise that as I think about it more and I get a chance to see it again, but that's probably where it ranks for me. But in terms of where the genre goes, I think I probably think along the same lines that Raiho does. The one point I think Cole talked about it a little bit, but the one thing about this that we didn't get into as much, but I think because this movie was like treated seriously, and in the review I wrote, like what I said that like this Halloween is kind of like the Dark Knight of slasher films, which I didn't necessarily take to mean like I think it's the best movie ever made, which again is like a joke about even the Dark Knight too, but it was that like after the Dark Knight, when you think about like how superhero films were perceived and the way that they came after that, the filmmakers and the writers that were making them took the material seriously. Like again, like the Dark Knight takes a story of like Batman and it's like, okay, how would this really play out? Like what's a realistic scenario? And that's why that movie's so captivating. And I felt like this Halloween movie was kind of doing something similar where it was like raising the material. There was a few of us that made this comment a few times. Like the movie seemed better than it should have been. Like the way it was filmed, it was like, wow, these shots were composed better than we were expecting. There were scenes where the acting seemed better than we were expecting. I almost think it could be just, if it raises that level, if slasher movies, if horror films get treated better, and I think it did this.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's what, again, it is sort of a combination of things because it is horror, but it's also Stephen King, and the Stephen King movies and adaptations have a mixed history. So doing that movie right isn't just a judgment on horror; it's also a judgment on Stephen King, which again I thought it was good. I don't know. I just hope that the quality stays where it is, but I fear what Raiho talked about, where after a few years and the studios realize they could just make a quick buck by churning these things out, like the quality will dip again. But if they can keep the quality up, I'd love to see a return to Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, as well as some original movies. Right. I think Halloween is going to prove out that there's money to be made here, though. If it didn't drive that home, I think it's definitely been driven home now.
Right. Well, and one good thing is, this isn't a remake. This is a sequel. So instead of them going, okay, well, let's do a sequel to, whatever, instead of, let's remake it again. That's hopefully will be their thought process.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Stingray?
Yeah, I agree with Eric. I was thinking the whole time, like, this is way better than it has any right to be. Really, like as far as the cinematography goes. But this is obviously the best Halloween movie ever. And obviously, I love the original film. I like part 2. I like part 3, even though it doesn't have Michael in it. And it's just probably 3 or 4 for me. I was never the biggest fan of the Thorn trilogy, but yeah. And as far as where the genre is going to go, I mean, I think that's one thing we can all agree on, is that this movie doing well, making a lot of money, is a good thing for the genre. So, I'm very happy about that. I really think it has potential to make like another 70 this weekend because of like word of mouth and good ratings and stuff. And it's nice to see people go see horror movies again. I mean, and not downloading a torrent file for once. I hope the genre does better, but with I mean, I don't know. I just really think the cinema is going to disappear in the near future anyway. But
or it's going to change so drastically that it won't really be the same. Yeah,
honed in on a specific target audience, like the way of the Alamo Drafthouse style.
Yeah. What do you think, Lauren?
The movie ends up about middle of the pack for the Halloween series for me. It sounds, I think you guys think I like it less than I do. I did take the movie seriously when I walked in. I wanted more than I got out of it. That's okay. I like the passion I'm seeing from people that they really loved it. That's great. I'm glad they had a great time. I really am. The impact on the genre, I think it's a little bit. Unrealistic to think one movie is going to be responsible for any single thing happening in the genre. We've had a really good last 6 or 7 years, frankly. The Blumhouse model has been something that's been embraced by Hollywood and has made a ridiculous amount of money, where really Hollywood didn't see money to be made before that, at least not since the independent era. The Conjuring films have opened up the floodgates on what they think these films can earn.
Yeah,
and and The Conjurings, by the way, we forget this. Those are not PG-13 safe horror films. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I like the first film fine. I don't so much like the second film, but I really appreciate the fact that their adult-oriented horror was out there and making big money, costing $16 million to make and bringing in over $100 million. Just a few weeks ago, we had The Nun make. I mean, The Nun is now, I think, at $115 million as in a box office. So Halloween's going to be a success story. Whether I'm not actually sure that this weekend will be a $70 million weekend for it, but I think it's going to be a $30 million weekend for it.
Sure, the weekend right before Halloween, though. I mean, even not just based on the quality of the movie or word of mouth. It's just
Right.
a timing thing, right? This is the Halloween weekend.
No.
This is Halloween. There's probably a lot of casual people will think the timing just lines up, right?
Yeah, it's definitely going to do better than it would any other time of the year for a second weekend. But horror films do have steep follow-ups on their second week.
Right.
And suggesting it's going to do 70 million this week would have it be doing something like 92% of what it did in its first week, because it did 77 first weekend. So I think if we set up that expectation of them doing that numbers, we might be disappointed. But you got to realize a slasher film that cost $10 million, making 145, 150 in its run is an incredible number. So don't be disappointed if this weekend doesn't come to those numbers. And we do have, Hunter Killer is a sub movie that's coming out. It's the biggest release that's for the weekend. I don't think it's huge competition. So Halloween could get a second weekend at the top, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it'll be as big as the first week. As far as the genre, it's really looking out the periscope out long distance. I think we're just in a great time period, and I don't think we actually have been paying attention to how good it is right now. We have a lot going on, a lot successful on both the small screen and the big screen, and it's been that way for a decent period of time now. I think there's a very good chance in 5 years we're going to look back at these as another heyday of horror, and that was already started before Halloween came out. Halloween's going to be one of the notches on that timeline, definitely, and I'm happy that it exists. The fact that it's not my favorite film of the year, or even the month it came out, not a big deal to me. I would like to see someone at some point make a Halloween film that we can all look at and say, wow, that really was as good as the original. But whether that ever happens, they should have the resources now, right? That's my hope.
Rob Zombie's Halloween too, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible for one to top, the original Halloween.
Yeah.
But it's like that with a lot of franchises. It's kind of unrealistic to think. We keep watching the Terminator movies and the Alien movies and the Predator movies, even though they haven't been good for decades. Yeah.
Right, but if they actually worked a screenplay, got the right creative team together, a movie's a movie, right? If they actually spent the time and energy, you'd be shocked, I think. But I don't have a lot of confidence Hollywood is really built like that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either. A movie's a movie, but that's the problem. There's just all these outside factors that shouldn't affect it, but do.
Well, Mike, where does the new Halloween rank for you?
Well,
And what do you think the future holds for horror?
First, I wanted to address something Stingray said earlier, that I don't like any movie made after 1985, which is complete bullshit. I like the new It. I just watched it the other day, and I like it even more the second time than I did when I saw it in the theater. I like The Meg, and I like Venom. All right. Plus, there's a Hardcore Henry, blah blah blah. There's been a lot of movies that I enjoy.
I think you're warming up to this new Halloween. I think you're warming up to it.
And as far as Cole being on the opposite of me, his admonishment is expected. Okay, so if he didn't, I would be disappointed. He was more reliable than the new Halloween movie. So thank you, Cole. I appreciate that.
I kind of feel the same way about you.
See,
You're getting predictable in your old age.
You're not even old yet, and you're already predictable. Man, pump the brakes, man. Pump the brakes. Anyway, as far as it goes in the Halloween, for me, it's 1 and 2 as far as the Michael Myers goes. And then every other Michael Myers related movie after that is varying degrees of bad. So it's not like this movie has strong competition as far as the sequels go. It is definitely not better than the original Halloween 2. I mean, are we on the Halloween 2 to the third power yet? Have we got Halloween 2, 3 yet? They're working on it. But anyway.
Bring back Tom Atkins.
There you go. Atkins makes part 3, and it's a goofy, so bad it's good type of thing. Kind of like I feel about Halloween 6.
Sure.
It's so bad it's good.
And
you can have a good time and laugh at it.
And I'm a Halloween 6 fan. For
yeah,
all
and
its,
I enjoyed
stupidity and its problems. So I'm not gonna pick on you for liking something stupid because Halloween 6 is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I have every reason to hate it for all the things it does to the story, and I still kind of just enjoy it anyway. So
I hate Halloween 5, but I actually really enjoy watching it, which might seem to be opposing statements. But I have a really good time watching Halloween 5.
But I actually wanted to go into this movie and like it because Halloween is my favorite slasher film of all time. So I do hold it in higher regard, and I do expect more. And rewriting the ending bothered me. Getting rid of Halloween 2 bothered me. There was a lot of things. I agree with a lot of Lauren's points on what he said about the going, different tone shifts all the time. But whatever. As far as I'm concerned, it just gets lost. It's better than the zombie films, definitely. So I will definitely have to give it props for that. I can't say it's not, right?
But
as far as where it lands, it's just another unworthy sequel. But it's better than the zombie films, and it does have things that are better than the Thorn trilogy, and it does have things that are better than Halloween 2 or H2O. But as far as it being, I just kind of gets lost in the mix with me. It's just another sequel. It didn't really stand out as what they were selling it as, right? They were selling it as, this is going to be the definitive sequel to the original film, to the point of rewriting the ending of the original film, where Michael crawls off into a bush and then Loomis goes down to finish him off and the cop stops him. But whatever. If you like it, cool, whatever. As far as you said something, Pizzle, about B movies becoming A. Well, whenever I think B movies are good for a reason, and it's partly because of the limited budget and the creativity that's required to make them good. And it's not always a good thing when B things go mainstream. They always tend to lose a little something. Like, I'll use Metallica as an example. Okay, I'm a big fan of like Ride the Lightning. Okay, I love the first 4 Metallica albums. A lot of people, if I talk to Metallica, all they know is the Black Album. To me, that was the mainstream album. That was the A album, and it was missing everything that made Metallica special to me. It was plotting, it was boring, but it made the radio and everybody loves it. Okay, fine. You love it. I think it's derivative of what their earlier work was to me. That's just me. As far as Halloween and the horror, I'm afraid that it's going to do what Scream did. Are we going to get another I Still Know What You Did last Friday the 13th? I mean, so now we have LeBron James. He's going to produce a new Friday the 13th movie. Is Busta Rhymes going to come back to produce the next Halloween? I mean, how ridiculous are we going to get with this shit? Oh, Freddy Krueger. Hey, yeah, England calls him new line. You want to make 80 million? Put me back in the Freddy makeup. I'm ready to go. Paychecks, baby, paychecks.
He was on the Goldbergs last night, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope for good things, but I do not expect them. That would be delusional.
I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I don't expect good things, and this is like
I hope for good things, but I don't expect them. I didn't really expect anything from this film. I hoped that it would be good, and it could have been good. Maybe my rage toward it is that there was a good movie in there, but the wrong people made it. But I don't know. I don't know what the problem. But there was something that just didn't ring true with me, and I felt like it was kind of a greatest hits in a way. I did appreciate the only thing they took from Zombie was the violence, because I did kind of feel like the kills in this film were more, you know, an homage to the Zombies kills, because his kills were very brutal, over the top, really. I mean, just out of place, over the top, too far, cartoonish. But this film kind of, I thought, blended that well. I appreciated the gore. I appreciated the violence. Michael looked pretty good. The mask looked pretty good. It looked well aged. You know, I was joking around about the haunted mask, but they did put a lot of importance on it at the beginning. Like that was going to be the trigger that makes him talk or something. And then all the other inmates start going crazy. But they don't do that until he pulls out the mask. Like it has some, like the film gave it some kind of mystical power.
Well, really, I mean,
That
when you're
wasn't
talking about
me
the
that did
baby
that.
being a fake out, this is more of the fake out. The mask thing is more of the fake out. It's like, oh, is Michael going to react? Is he going to? Are they going to cross that line? No, of course he's not going to react. He's Michael. They're not going to change that. But certain people think, oh, maybe there'll be a reaction. That's the fake out, I think, the movie has. That I could agree is maybe that one is a little cheap. But again, it fits the context because of these characters. You know, they're journalists and they're trying to, you know, they're trying to evoke a reaction, blah, blah, blah.
I wish they would have, you know, I don't know. I had my problems with it. It's not the worst Halloween film of all time, obviously, because Rob Zombie holds that unique trophy. Not something to be proud of, Rob. Just saying. Yeah, so that's my take on the. You know, I also agree that this horror renaissance, you know, James Wan has as much to do with it as the new Halloween film. I think he's made some great films over the years that have kind of reignited people's interest in horror.
Well,
I saw a preview for one he's producing. I didn't really pay much attention to it. I got to the film a little late, so the previews were already kind of in motion, so I didn't really get settled in. I got just pretty much perfect timing for the movie to start. So,
well, I think the James Wan thing that reignited a certain kind of horror, the haunting and the possessions and all that jazz. I want a slasher renaissance. I want this to be the launching pad for a slasher renaissance.
And again, I'm afraid Scream did that, but in all the wrong ways.
Right.
And I hope that doesn't repeat.
Right. Exactly. If whoever is making the next Nightmare or Friday or whatever the slasher movie is that they're hoping to cash in on this new renaissance, if they'll treat it, you know what I mean? If they'll treat it correctly, if they'll treat the material the right way, then I think they'll have a success.
And there are, and Jay said something about, you know, this movie's made for modern audiences. Fair enough. Fair enough. I've seen some reviews by younger YouTube reviewers that have reviewed the original Halloween and think it's boring. Well, Michael just stands around and stares at people. There's no action. Nothing happens. Okay, so yeah, those kind of people are going to like this movie because it's made for Riddlin kids. The first Alien people think is boring. I think it's great. I'm more into that type of, you know, the payoff better be good, but I like it when you build to it. Again, somebody said something about it does kind of take a little bit of knowledge of the previous sequels to get into this movie. Maybe a little bit. I don't think really it hinges on you seeing the other films, but I think you're kind of, those people are up to speed on kind of what's going on, and I don't know. I wanted to like it, but I just ended up. I don't see. Like Eric is like he's Mr. Sunshine. He loves everything. It just freaks me out. It's like, what kind of weed are you smoking, man? Did you find a strain that nobody's ever heard of before or something? The always happy, everything's beautiful, something or other. I mean,
my you and Jay were talking about your philosophies. It's like I go into a movie and I want to like it. And so, like the movie, like to be honest,
force yourself to like it, whether it's good or not.
No, the burden, it's up to the movie to lose my faith. And so I sort of go in because it's like if I pay money to see a movie, like I've already made a commitment. There's something about this that interests me, and Halloween obviously is something that interests me. I like the series, I like the other sequels, whatever. Like this movie would have had to do so Rob Zombie's Halloween, I am pretty sure the first use of skullfuck, I got like a pit in my stomach watching that movie. Like, like it's already losing me. And very quickly, there were lots of other things that happened right after that, where it was like.
And when the babysitter says to her boyfriend, "I'm going to dry fuck you all night long," I had a Rob Zombie flashback. Thank you very much.
Luckily, I purged most of the dialogue from my memory.
I'm just saying. Like, again, I don't. First of all, and like I said, I don't think it's perfect. I do like it. I think it does a lot of things right. You know, I just don't. I don't know, Mike. It's like there. Sometimes it's. I wouldn't go so far like Jay says. You don't like anything after 1985. I don't think that's accurate. But I do think generally you've got sort of a negative outlook on things sometimes, and I don't share that. I want to like these
things to be good. Excuse me. I expect effort. I expect passion. I guess maybe I should just turn my brain off and drool on myself while I eat my popcorn and go, "That was the greatest thing I ever thought."
No, I don't think that it's a horrible movie. I mean, I think it's okay. I think the main issue is that, at least from my point of view in watching it, was that it started out really strong and it just lost me in the second half. So I don't think it's the worst. I mean, it can't possibly get any worse than 6, 5. Or Resurrection. Well, so it's in the top 5, I think.
Okay, Monty. So it's in your top 5. Okay.
And considering the weak competition, I really can't argue that, right? How can I say that it's not better than 5? 5's a piece of shit. I can't defend that movie. I mean, it's the worst of the Thorn trilogy.
Well, I mean, that's
so
true.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that this movie's better than 5, but you know. Again, is a turd with peanuts better than a turd with corn? I guess so. If you like peanuts better than corn.
I love your. By the way, why do we call it a Thorn trilogy? I still don't get that. Halloween 4 makes no references to. I don't like that Halloween 4 gets dragged down by Halloween 5 and 6. Like, it has nothing to do, other than the character of Jamie. Like, it doesn't have.
So I guess that's why.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, Stingray, did you have you told us where the movie ranks in the Halloween series to you?
I'd say probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay.
I mean, if you include 3 in the mix, I'd probably like 3 more. But
okay. What about you, Cole? Or is it too early?
I just turned my brain off, and I made a bunch of weird fucking noises when I saw it. So
I don't doubt it. I wonder about you sometimes, man.
Well, and Mike, let's be serious here. We all know that the best Metallica era is the load-reload era. Okay,
yeah.
So
that's when they found their sound.
That's when they really got into their own. So
those albums do not exist in my universe. Thank you very much.
Cole, is it too early to ask you where this film ranks in the Halloween series for you?
I mean, if I'm gonna do a knee jerk, it's probably tied for 3rd with 4. So it'd be like 1, 2, and then this and 4 together. Probably. You know, I like 6 more than I should have any right to, because again, I'm fully aware of all its stupidity and problems and stuff, and I just enjoy it and stuff like that. And then 5, I think, is really bad, but I can handle because of its similarities to 4. And then we get into the ones I hate. Like, you know, I don't think Halloween H2O is like awful and horrible, but I just find it really bland and soulless and empty and uninteresting. And then it's, you know, pure hate for Rob Zombie and Resurrection. But yeah, as far as like the future of the genre, like, I think Lauren is right that you know, these things run in cycles. You know, as far as popularity and quality of a genre and stuff like that. And he makes a good point that we're already kind of in an uptick after coming out of sort of a, you know, if we go from like, you know, the 80s being the golden age and then it really dying off in the 90s, at least for slashers, and then Scream reviving it, but it being like not too much of a revival because after Scream, like most of the imitators were just, you know, very, you know, crappy. They weren't very good. They were just derivative and stuff like that. And then we're in a really dark period in the mid-2000s where we have to hear about how like people like Rob Zombie and what's his name, Adam Green and Eli Roth are supposed to be the masters of the genre, and I think that's really painful for most of us. I mean, yeah, I know there's some people that dig that period and dig those guys, but I think at least across this panel, that's kind of a dark period. But we've been coming out of that, yeah, with a lot of different kind of movies too. You're right. This is an uptick for slashers, hopefully, because we haven't really seen a lot of good slashers. What we've seen is mostly is fairly flat remakes. You know, like 2009, we had a flat remake of Friday the 13th. We had a flat remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, and then we had a flat remake to maybe not as flat to going down to bad to things like My Bloody Valentine and Black Christmas and all that. You know, I don't think anybody's going to say, "Oh yeah, those are really worthy remakes." Does anybody think that? Because I don't think so. Anyway, but
I like
it is
My
true
Bloody
that
Valentine.
it's a passable remake, I'll say. Well, my point isn't even that it's awful. It's just that it wasn't really going to be this big spike in quality. But yeah, besides
Sorry, I was
slashers,
making noises and drooling when I was watching it, so maybe I'm forgetting some things that made it less worthy.
Remember your bib next time, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, like besides slashers, as I was pointed out, James Wan has done some good work with some various sorts of horror. The Conjuring is a really good point to bring up because they kind of set the bar for like high production values and taking it seriously and not just treating it as. And again, I don't want to go too far on this tangent because I think there's always going to be a place, like Mike said, for the fun B movie. And horror fits that like a glove. So I think it's perfectly. I'm not saying we need all horror to be elevated now to have super high production values and A-list. No, I mean it's. I want there to still be some B movie type horror coming out that's put together on a budget and all that stuff. I think that's good, and you need that to make any genre grow. But at the same time, when you have established stuff like say Stephen King's works, for somebody like me who likes a lot of his work, it's been painful life for me seeing these really cheap, cheesy, terrible, watered down adaptations of his work. Like you always knew that it would just be cheap and awful, and everything that made the book like edgy would be taken out and stuff, with very few exceptions along the way. I'm sure Misery is kind of an exception and stuff, but for the most part. So then seeing it, you're like, wow. Like, I mean, even if you don't think it's perfect, it's kind of the same way I feel like Halloween. Like I don't think this Halloween's perfect, but still, I'm impressed by how seriously the material's taken, et cetera, et cetera. So, I don't know, I'm being long-winded in saying that I think it's true that we are kind of already in a good period, and there's some sort of lesser-known, not as big movies, but have solidly contributed, something like It Follows or The Witch, stuff like that, proving that there's still some originality out there. But as far as the future of the slasher genre goes, I don't know. I think it's going to be very similar to the Scream thing, honestly. I think we'll have maybe one or two of quality, and then we'll get a bunch of crappy imitators, much like the post-Scream era. I don't feel very optimistic that this means, yes, we're now in an era where, slashers are going to become really memorable and awesome again. I'd love to be proved wrong. What I love most, is for a completely original slasher that, is not a sequel or remake of any kind to come up and really get things going. I guess it could happen, but I don't know. The pessimist in me doesn't really see that happening. But as Lauren said, yeah, maybe we shouldn't take for granted the fact that the last few years haven't been that bad, and there's been some positivity among them, among it, or whatever. So the future is probably, we might even be at the peak now. I don't know if Izzo wants to be hopeful that this means we're on our way up. I think maybe we might even be in the peak and we're going to start to go down, but I think that'll still be more gradual. So I think we have maybe a year or two of still some pretty good stuff, and then we'll see another slide because, I don't know, nothing stays on top forever. Studios, they decide where to put their time and money. Audiences are very fickle, all that stuff. You're never going to see, history doesn't repeat itself. It moves in cycles, but it doesn't repeat itself. There'll never be a period of creativity and enthusiasm for the slashers like sort of the initial era of the very late 70s, early 80s. I don't think that will ever be repeated. That's not repeatable.
Mm-hmm. And I think the politics now are something that works against. It's funny. I want slashers to come back too, and again, I was optimistic about it. But the more I think about it, because in the chat, someone was talking about how the Sleepaway Camp series is sort of one series that hasn't really been touched, and it kind of got me thinking that I just the way that things are so politicized now, and slashers were always something that like feminist groups were after, even in the 1980s. And I think that Halloween works largely because they lean into that a bit, and I think it works in that series. But I would wonder
Camp would be very problematic. That has the youngest body count of any
Yeah.
movie I'm aware of. Like you've got like very not teens, but maybe very young teens, even preteens getting off in that movie. And now if you did like a remake or a sequel, it would have to go in a really different direction, I think.
Yeah.
Which, again, anything's possible. Maybe it could actually be really good, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it would be good.
Right. Well, and that's my point. Is I think anything they did, I don't know that it would please people like us, and I think it would basically be toothless. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe the slasher genre of horror, that's something that might handicap it. And again, I'm not hoping for that, but that is just to raise that idea that maybe that's something that could work against it. Halloween leaned into it, and there was a strong reason for it, at least as part of its story. But to just do, well, I don't know. Lauren, tell me, like, that was that movie? Was it Hellfest or Hell Night or whatever, that one that just came out?
Hellfest.
Was that like just straight slasher horror, or were they, you know, kind of playing with the feminist angle, or what was the deal with that?
So it doesn't play with the feminist angle, but it does update the gender politics to today. But it does it in a way that's simply reflecting how the gender roles are now. It's not doing what Halloween did with like literally reversing Bonnie and Clyde to hit us over the head with it, right?
Yeah.
So it is a modern film in every sense as far as how the characters are portrayed. But the thing about it is, and the thing that I wish someone else here had seen the movie, is that it is very earnest and honest, and it tells its story. It's basic. It really is. A bunch of kids go into a haunted attraction, and not many of them walk out the door at the end. But when you see the film, you're going to understand how much this reflects just the sentiments of that 79 to 84 period of the slashers, even though it is updated. I just think we missed a big opportunity by not making it a big hit. It did make money, so it wasn't a failure at the box office, but if it had been a big surprise hit, I think the genre might have been tipped into original pieces a lot.
Ryan, did it even play?
It did, actually. What sucks is I wanted to see it. I actually had intended to ask you to see it this week, and then we ended up seeing Halloween or last week. But I just checked, and the last showing in Halifax was tonight at like 7:00.
Because I was going to say I don't even remember.
I'm actually checking right now to see if it's on demand, because I figured it might go straight to on demand, but I don't see it on here.
I think it's
I
going
might
to
have gone the other day if it wasn't fucking broke.
I think it's hitting the pay services the first week of December.
Yeah, sometimes like Mandy went right to it here. Like I could have watched Mandy right away, so I thought maybe, but I will be streaming it when it comes out.
While we're kind of talking about that, though, there is something happening this weekend that no one's talking about that we all, I'm sure everyone here is going to be interested in immediately, which is that the 4K restoration of The Fog is on 44 screens nationwide. So if you have it near you, you should check it out. We always complain we don't get the good stuff. We're getting the good stuff. Let's support it.
Yeah.
When's Suspiria?
November 4th.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, finding that's going to be a little bit harder because theaters don't want to give up that the screen for that long. They can only get basically 3 showings in a day of the film because it's so long. So it might be harder to find Suspiria than Fog, frankly.
I really want to see Suspiria. The new Halloween for me, I mean, my ranking is pretty static as far as the top 3 is Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween 3. It would fall either. I love Halloween 4. So I don't know if I would put it before 4 or after 4. There is the Bucky effect for 4 that may give 4 the edge. I don't know.
Donald Pleasance is who breaks that tie for me.
Well, there you go. Well, and also I love the little scene. And this is one of those moments I was talking about that happened in the new Halloween. Those nice little charactery, fun moments where Loomis is in the truck with that drunk preacher, and they're both looking for it, and they just have this nice moment over a bottle of whiskey, and that's just just a nice moment. You know what I mean?
Probably the only like low key moment that Donald Pleasance has in the whole series, where like he's sort of like disarmed for like even a brief moment. So that's it's notable for that.
True.
He smiles.
Exactly. He smiles. Yeah. You don't.
The rest of the time, he's running around like a madman with his wild eyes, shaking little girls.
Exactly. Exactly. Or
you don't understand. This isn't a man.
Yeah, beating Michael with a 2x4 and terrorizing Danielle Harris. So,
or yelling at the sheriff.
yeah.
That was one of my favorite pairings. Just where he's walking around, just always berating the sheriff.
I'd yell at the sheriff, too.
But I'm very optimistic for slasher movies. I hope that this is the launching pad for, and maybe if nothing else, somebody I think Rahul mentioned this earlier. If anything is going to end that lawsuit between that will definitively end it between Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham,
It'll be LeBron James.
It could be Braun.
Nothing he can't do.
Could be Braun, yeah. But if they go, wait a minute, holy crap, this movie made all this money. Let's settle our differences and let's make a new Friday the 13th. So
maybe LeBron James will start his own like horror movie studio and just start.
He does have a studio, right? Like what's it called? It's not LeBron James that's trying to get it. It's his studio.
Production company.
It's Braun Productions.
No,
that sounds like a fake name.
Let's look here. It's gonna drive me nuts. So I have to look it up. Spring Hill Entertainment? Maybe? No.
That I don't remember.
Anyway, he's Spring Hill Entertainment.
I thought that sounded familiar. Well, let's see what's going on out in the chat before we call it a night, because I think we have psychoanalyzed Halloween.
There's nothing left of it.
There's nothing left of it.
I hope
Let's talk about it longer than it deserves.
Man, if it'll get a new Friday the 13th movie made, I'll actually cheer for the Lakers if that's what it takes.
Lauren is showing off some of his work. Lauren, tell us about your work. You're a published author. You've mentioned it before.
Most recent is Bleak December. It's available on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. Any bookstore can order it. Progressive horror, no traditional tropes, a new story, something you haven't read a million times. I appreciate any support that anyone out there can give me, even if it's just checking out the Amazon page and giving it the hit there. But I just appreciate any support. There is a lot of artists working in all fields of horror that are trying to break through, and believe it or not, the publishing game, the same way as the movie game and the comic book or the games, the video games, the original creators that are out there have to fight a big uphill battle. So any support you can give myself or anyone else in my shoes, I really appreciate. That's one of the reasons I like to go see almost everything that comes out in the horror genre in theaters. It's not because I think it's all going to be good. It's because the more new voices we get out there that are getting a platform, the better we're off. That's the end of my spiel.
There we go.
Nice work, man.
Thank you.
Jerpin says Pizzelle made me really want to check out Mandy. Definitely check it out, man. It looks. Definitely check it out. I love it. Great movie. If Nicolas Cage does not get nominated for an Oscar, there's no God. There's just no God if he doesn't get nominated for an Oscar. Bradley Taylor is Bradley Taylor. You know what, Bradley? You have been asking for the Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 live commentaries for a long time. We may have to get down and do those. I love Sleepaway Camp 2. It's been a while since I've seen part 3, but we may have to get down and do those. Jason Wall says he likes both the My Bloody Valentine and the Black Christmas remake. I thought the My Bloody Valentine remake was kind of, it's watchable. Black Christmas is weird because I saw that one in the theater and I hated it, but it's one that I've revisited and it's got this weird energy to it. I don't know.
I don't have the strength to revisit it, and I hate it so venomously.
It's horrible.
I hate it so much. Yeah,
I can't say it's good.
See, it's the cardinal sin again, like the giving too much backstory and stuff. Like in the first one, he's just a mysterious lunatic, and he uses the word Billy. And this, it's a kid named Billy, and he had a weird upbringing and incestuous home.
I hate that. I hate
eyeballs in the attic. Like
I hate the sister. But I think it's a really stylish, colorful. It has a real energy to it. But other than that,
even its cover is colorful.
It's not great, and the whole backstory thing is bad. But I don't know. I can watch it.
That's one of the. Well, no, I can't.
I can't watch it. No.
I like Black Christmas too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Black Christmas. Love Black Christmas. Let's see what else we got going on out in the chat. A lot of talk of LeBron James producing the next Friday the 13th film. That's just weird. When I first saw somebody posted that, I was like, or somebody sent me the link and they were like, "Have you heard of this?" And my initial thought was like, "Is this an Onion article or what's is this like a joke or?" But,
So speaking, it's kind of topically. So imagine a Friday the 13th movie is going to come out, and they do the Halloween approach. They make it a sequel to the first one that disregards all the others. What would you think of that?
Oh, God.
That just wouldn't work.
yeah, I don't know how that would work unless it's like
It'd be Jason's first real appearance because the first
Yeah.
one, where he.
well, I mean,
That's kind of what the reboot did to some extent, because it sort of just told this very, very brief
You're right. because
intro
it
about
kinda
the first
separates
movie
the first one,
and like
yeah.
remixed like
I
part
was
2
okay
through
with
part
that.
4.
Like, I was
So was
okay
I.
with that flashback, and then then the movie devolves into the crap that it is. But I actually was on board with that opening. I was like, okay, yeah, now they're setting it in 1980, blah blah. I get it, and then no.
Yeah.
But it just seems like maybe that's a real possibility. Like, as that being what they do, if they do a Friday the 13th.
that's definitely a possibility. That's definitely a possibility.
I like the one we have where Jason has crash landed from space in, like, I don't know, somewhere far up north, and he gets up in the snow, and then we can just have a Friday the 13th in the snow. That's all we really want.
I was gonna say they could just, I think in my mind, they just disregard Jason X Forward and just make another sequel. You know what I mean? It's like, keep running with it after
Disregard Jason Goes to Hell while they're at it. then.
Well,
Get rid of all those.
I don't think they need to retcon, or I think they just need to
make another movie.
Here's the camp, here's the woods, here's Jason, here's people who's killing.
They need to make him as gooey as possible. They need if they do that thing where they take him back and he's a normal guy again. Like they did that remake, they did whatever. Like let's get that gooey zombie Jason in there.
Like don't overthink it. Like it's not hard.
That's what they've been overthinking for 15 years.
Yeah.
It's not trying to make little clever hooks. Bring back Tom Savini.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe Tom Savini should do the effects.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Matthews, bring him back.
Yep.
Oh, he did the fan film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did that.
He did.
Yeah, it was good.
Tom Matthews needs to eat.
Well,
Tom Matthews, but Tom Atkins in there.
Tom Matthews has no problem eating. He's
Let's
like
get all the Toms.
He's like a big real estate agent in Los Angeles, man. He's
Tom Atkins, Tom Selleck.
He's
a mustache battle.
It'd be a mustache fight. Yeah, hell yeah.
A lot of people loving Cole when he jumped on and went on his.
That's really why I came, people. I came for them, not you.
So a lot of love for Cole jumping on there. All right, guys. I mean, we've done it all. We've said it all. We've dissected this movie. We've chopped it to bits. It's there's nothing more to say about this film.
It's like Dr. Sartain's head.
exactly. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up, guys. Big thanks to everybody who watched tonight. We had a very large viewership tonight. The chat was lively all night long as well. Big thanks to all of my all the panelists who joined me. Thank you, Monty. Hopefully this is the first of many future appearances for you.
Yeah, thanks for joining, man.
I had a great time.
This is a tough one to jump into. I kind of feel bad.
Yeah.
we came in guns blazing.
I'm an experienced horror fan.
I know. I just mean,
we meant you can hold your own. It was more about us. It was more about us.
We were just all like yelling at each other. We're usually not.
If Rambo Raff would have jumped in, I probably would have quit. Because I don't think I could. I probably would.
Well, this was a trial by fire for you, Monty, and you survived it with flying colors, man. You did very well. You did very well. And thanks to the rest of you guys too. I mean, this was a good show. This was what I expected. Some love for the film, some hate for the film, some extreme hate for the film.
Unfortunately, I was going to say that I think Rambo's absence has unfortunately shifted the balance in the wrong direction. I'm alone.
You guys need to do another
That's okay.
I
can handle it.
I was actually going to message Rambo before the show and ask him to make an official statement that I could read on the air, but I just didn't have time. But I knew it would have been a
His
great
official
statement.
would have been pretty long.
He's got a like 30+ minute video on it. He has a very
53, and I
strong
imagine
statement.
that it's
Yeah.
glorious.
Yeah, it's I listened to the whole thing.
I imagine he's doing a lot of this that he does. Like, where he gets right up the camera. He's like, I don't.
He's got the
know
chair now. Actually, he's got like
why they keep
he's got that bitchin'
doing-
chair, so he's just sitting back the whole time in his phone.
We miss you, Rambo, but yeah,
He's awesome. He's awesome.
it would've been a
Hey,
tough one tonight.
For the
Gotta get
record,
him back.
Orc likes
We gotta get him
the movie.
back.
Maybe I wasn't supposed to mention his name, but Orc thinks they did a great job on this movie.
There you go.
Good.
There you go. There you go. It's got Orc's approval. So
Orc
that,
stamp.
that's just another one against you, Mike. Orc has
But I
turned his
mean, the
back on you
balance
now.
is way off, man.
Uh,
That's all right though. I can handle it.
I think that showed his true feelings that he really, really enjoyed it.
the balance in the force is off. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. All right, guys. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks to all you guys for joining me tonight. Hope you guys out there all have a great, safe, happy, healthy, awesome, horror-filled Halloween. We will return in November.
Yep.
And
Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
everyone is entitled to one get scared. So, guys, have a great night. Have a great Halloween. We'll see you next time. Peace.
I'm still
Peace,
waiting.
peace, everybody.